and I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do, and I'm going to improve the country. And if that means you vote me out at the next election, well, come and vote me out, because I'm not for changing. People not being deported after they've committed crimes. If you can't deport a foreign paedophile who's raped our children, well, what's the system for?
There is absolutely no point in the system being there.
Exactly.
If you can't do anything.
Yeah.
You tend to find anyone who refers to himself as an alpha male, by definition, is not an alpha male.
Yeah.
Now then, how's it going?
Nick Buckley, welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, mate. Cheers.
No, thank you. Thank you for the bit.
Nice to meet you, mate.
Nick Buckley, MBE. So that was actually one of our first questions, Nick. What does MBE mean and how do you get it?
Member of the British Empire.
Ah, yep.
And you get it when you've saved the life of one of the royals.
Really?
No.
You fully had me.
I got my MBE awarded off the late Queen for my charity work.
Right.
So when I was made redundant from the council, I took the money, invested the money into a charity that I founded.
Yeah.
And then 10 years later, it was a multi-award winning charity, stopped hundreds of kids getting involved in crime, dozens of girls from being raped, homeless people off the streets, lots and lots of work like that over a decade. And I was awarded an MBE for that work.
Right. Helps him.
I didn't save any royal members' lives.
No, I wouldn't either.
Well, we were sort of stupid question to start with, but we said, well, we had to look it up when we first spoke to you.
Yeah.
And we thought, well, there might be other goons like us who didn't actually know exactly what it stood for. We know it's good.
Yeah.
So we thought we should probably ask you actually, because we had to look it up, which is probably a bit shameful, isn't it? But fantastic.
And then you've got other ones like OBE, which is Order of the British Empire, and then a CBE, which is Commander of the British Empire.
Yeah.
And they're all earned from doing different
things. Well, sometimes you can get it just a politician will usually automatically get one because they've been in politics for so many decades. Some aren't really earned, but some people actually earn them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So did you sell?
I'd like to think so.
Yeah. Bloody fantastic. What was the charity?
Charity's still going. I'm not involved anymore now. It's called Mancunian Way.
Yep.
And we work across Greater Manchester.
Right.
The project we run at the moment, we don't do the homeless project anymore now. COVID killed that project. But we work on the streets 6-7 nights a week, working with kids who are disenfranchised, who've been kicked out youth clubs, not going to school, hanging on the streets, getting into trouble. And the staff work with them and try to show them a better way and a better future.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Yeah, fair play. I've listened to quite a lot of your stuff in the last few weeks. Well impressed. I know you probably get a little bit sick of it, but if you could just give a quick intro. Obviously we know about your charity, but how you've got to this point, just what you're doing now. Yeah,
sure. So like I said, I'm not involved in the charity anymore. I then moved into politics, so I'm now actively trying to get elected. So last year I stood at the general election. And the big one last year in Greater Manchester was Andy Burnham was up for re-election for Mayor of Greater Manchester. Yeah. So I stood against him as an independent. I campaigned for something like 15 months before the election, and I came third. I beat Reform UK, the Lib Dems and the Greens.
Didn't you run with Reform before?
3 years before, I'd stood for Reform,
Right.
But I decided this time I was going to stand as independent.
Right, okay.
Yes, I did well at that, and I'm working full-time now on politics, raising some of the issues I want to raise, talk about the solutions. Yeah. A lot of the solutions to the problems we have in this country are simple solutions. What we're lacking is a politician with the balls to do what needs to be done.
There's a huge bureaucracy in the way of it.
Well, that can be easily tackled. All you need is a backbone. Trump has shown us.
You can get rid of the bureaucracy.
You can do things, but are you willing for the headache, to ruin your career, to not climb that greasy pole, to be criticised? And the answer to me is, well, I'm willing for all that. Yeah. Because I've not got into politics for myself. I'm not getting into politics because I want to climb the greasy pole. I want to improve the country I love. It's as simple as that. Yeah. And our problem now is we have far too many career politicians. And a career politician is exactly what it says on the tin. It's a career.
Yeah.
And what you do when you're in your job, you want promotion. You're trying to keep your boss happy. You know, you want more money, you want a pay rise. And that's all these politicians do, is they want to keep in the job. They want to be elected and again. They want to be friendly with the party leader so they can get a better job and they can get promoted and be a minister and get that ministerial car and have private jets like David Lammy around the world. And it's that greasy pole. It's having your trout, your snout in the gravy train. That's all it is. Well, what we really need is statespeople.
Yeah.
We need people who are going to go, I'm standing and if I win this post, this is what I'm going to do. And I don't care if you like it or not, because this is the best thing for the country. And I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do, and I'm going to improve the country. And if that means you vote me out at the next election, well, come and vote me out, because I'm not for changing. And if I only serve one term somewhere, I'm going to do as much as I can in that one term.
Yeah.
And if I'm not elected again, fine. At least when I die, I can say I did something. I improved my country a little bit. And if everybody improves this country just a little bit, that's a tsunami of change. Yeah. We could change this country overnight. Yeah. But I'm tired of people. I'm tired of weak, cowardly English men. That's the problem we have in this country, is weak English men. It's not Muslims, it's not immigrants, it's not socialists, it's not the Marxists, it's not the woke idiots. All of them are problems.
Yeah.
It's weak English men who allowed all those problems to come into the country and then to propagate and to expand and to start killing this great nation of ours. Weak English men are the problem. And if you're sat listening to this and you're thinking to yourself, oh, there's no such thing as weak Englishmen, well, you're probably a weak Englishman. You need to open your eyes and see what's happening, and you need to take personal responsibility, and you need to start doing something yourself. I'm sick of people waiting for the state to fix their problems and fix everyone else's problems. If you're waiting for the state to do it, you're going to be waiting a long time. The state only makes things worse. It doesn't solve any problems. Only we can solve problems. And you start by solving your own problems in your life, then looking at your family and solving those problems, then your community, and then your nation. Stop having everything in your life a mess and then turning around to this semi-socialist government we have and go, yeah, this is a socialist government, but I'm probably talking about the last 50 years of semi-socialist governments, and saying to them, why can't you fix my life and make my life better? Well, they can't. They never can. And
I've never understood why people would rely on the government for anything.
It's because since post-Second World War, we've slowly turned into a socialist nation.
Yeah.
We're a socialist country,
yeah.
And the people are socialists and don't realise they are. And socialists always eventually run out of other people's money. And that's what's happening now.
Yeah.
We're running out of money. So
have run out of money.
We have, yeah. I mean, we're trillions in debt. So that's why I've got into politics. And I'm working on this full time now. You know, some by-elections will be coming up. I'll be standing, hopefully, at one or two of them. And we'll see when the next general election is. And I don't think it's going to be 4.5 years from now.
You think it'll be called sooner?
2 years max.
Really?
This country, this government's going to fall.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to fall yet. Could be many things that bring this government down.
Every week you think that this is going to be the thing that brings them down, though.
Yeah.
You know, there's something new every week.
Yeah, but one of them will bring the government down. You know, it could be a war in the Middle East. It could be having to go to the World Bank for a bailout because our economy is crashing. It could be tariffs that Trump put on the UK.
Yeah.
It could be another huge terrorist attack. There's many things that could bring this government down.
Yeah. That's something that I worry about. Is that the fact that the next time there is some sort of terrorist, and there will be, without a shadow of a doubt.
There's one always coming,
Like something like Southport will happen again.
Germany today.
Yeah. Another example.
Again,
today.
Germany.
Yeah. For AFD, that's a great result.
Yeah.
But not. It's an awful thing to say.
I know exactly. I know exactly what you mean.
But I worry that kind of condition of us being in the situation that we are will push the nation to build someone who is more of a fascist side because the people are so fucking angry and tired. And most people that you speak to are absolutely sick and tired of the state and the bullshit that we hear every day. It really does worry me.
I wouldn't worry about a fascist in this.
No, not a fascist.
I wouldn't worry about that here. I wouldn't worry about our political institutions. They're too old, they're too sensible, they take far too long to corrupt.
Yeah.
They're a mess now, but this has taken 30, 40 years to get this bad. We don't do anything quickly in this country. Our system's designed not to do things quickly.
Yeah.
In which case, when you have trendy things happening, we can't change that quick, which is a good thing. We want slow stability, and that's sort of what we have, even though it's not working at the moment. What the issue is the white backlash.
Yeah.
We saw it last week, or a couple of weeks ago in Sweden, where the guy killed so many immigrants, shot them all dead. That's going to start happening across the West.
No, that's what I mean. That's what I'm worrying about.
That's going to happen because you can just imagine this. You've got disenfranchised young white men across Europe.
Impressionable.
Who have been treated poorly for decades, who have been told all the world's problems are your problems.
Yeah.
A lot of them can't get relationships because feminism has killed the dating market. So, most dating is done online now. Yeah. Most men don't even get swiped on dating apps. So they're lonely, they're frustrated. They've been persecuted. White men have been persecuted now probably all my life across Europe and the West. They're seeing immigrants come into the country. Some do very well, so they're envious of that. How can you do well and not me? Yeah. Some turn to crime, so now they're looking, going, why have we let these criminals in the country? Yeah. And others do nothing and sit on benefits, and they're going, you're sponging off me in my country. So everywhere you look at it, they're getting angrier and angrier and angrier. And then on top of that, some of these nutcase immigrants are killing us, or raping our children, or raping our mothers. And we're looking at that, and inside each man is that protection gene, where we're built to protect the tribe. Yeah. And some are more protective than others. But we're looking at that, and some of these men will be going, I need to do something. My life's crap. I've got nothing to live for. I could die for something, though. Yeah. I could die a hero. Yeah. If I killed 50 of them with a machine gun that I buy on the black market, I'd die a hero. They'll always remember my name. I will be like Richard the Lionheart. I'll be like Churchill. I'll save this nation. Yeah. I can see how this goes in people's minds, and it's extremely dangerous. And the only way we stop this white backlash is decent politicians who get a grip of the issues that we all know are the issues. Yeah. It's mass migration. It's radical Islam. It's criminals everywhere, and criminals being caught and not even being punished. Yep. People not being deported after they've committed crimes. If you can't deport a foreign paedophile who's raped our children, well, what's the system for?
There is absolutely no point in the system being there.
Exactly.
If it can't do anything.
We have enough white, English, Christian paedophiles in this country. We don't need to. We haven't got a shortage. No. We don't have to import more, shouldn't we? There's a shortage, guys, of paedophile shit. Yeah. Pakistan, can you send us some more, please?
Yeah, here's fucking everyone.
Yeah. I've had many paedophiles arrested. They've all been white Englishmen. Yeah. I've never had an Asian arrested for paedophilia. I've never come across one. But we know they exist. We know white Christians are paedophiles. So we don't need to import.
But it's across every demographic. It's not.
Of course it is.
It's not a certain race.
No.
Problem.
Yeah.
Or as far as the stats tell you.
Yeah. It's certain types are. So I mean, if you're looking at grooming gangs, then it's predominantly Pakistani Muslim heritage problem. Yeah. But if you're looking at paedophilia overall, it's every community, every group, everything, everywhere. But certain communities are more prolific in certain crimes in certain ways. But every community commits crime. So that's what politicians have to look at now. And Keir Starmer is already demonising white young men all the time. Far right, fascists.
Everything that comes up against him is just it's far right.
Yeah.
Like every time it's...
Yeah, but that's worked for 50 years.
It's worn it out because the far right is a really dangerous thing. As far as the far left is dangerous. Yeah. But just calling everything far right is not an answer to your shitty politics.
Yeah. Well, to be truth, there is no far right in the UK. It's probably 9 people in the whole UK. Yeah. We've never had a problem with the far right in this country. We've never really had a problem with the far left. This is a sensible country. We've never voted in extremists. That's why we rejected Corbyn. And Mosley. Every other country, nearly every country in Europe, have had fascists and dictators and all those sort of things. We've always had very sensible people. But what we don't need is politicians lying to us and gaslighting us that, if you disagree with mass immigration, you're a far-right Nazi fascist. And it's like, we all know that's not true. And that doesn't solve the problem. Hence why we need to be careful of the white backlash for disenfranchised young white men. And we don't need to go down that path. But if politicians don't get a grip of it and don't start solving some of these problems, then we'll see it. And we saw the beginning of it at Southport.
Yeah.
7 years before, on my street in Manchester, 22 people died. I heard the bomb explode.
Oh, you heard it?
I was in bed. I heard it, and I rolled over and went back to sleep. Because Manchester City Centre is always noisy.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was, but there was always something going on. No, I didn't think it was a bomb.
Yeah.
I heard
why
it.
would you?
Well, why would I? Nobody got angry then. It was all about don't look back in anger. And all, group hug everybody. Let's be pink and fluffy. 22 people are dead, but don't worry about that. 7 years later, Southport, the country's changed now. We all know what the problem is. And we had violence on the streets. And that was just step one of what's to come. The next massacre, there'll be more people on the streets. There'll be more violence if the government doesn't get a grip.
Yeah. What do you think? Can he?
I
can't see it.
This government can't.
No, he can't, but it is doable.
Again, go back to Trump.
Yeah.
In 3 weeks, he's reduced illegal immigration in 3 weeks by 93%.
Yeah.
He's now made Mexico put 10,000 soldiers on the border. He's done the same with Canada. They put hundreds of soldiers on their border. These things can be done. Colombia wouldn't take their illegal immigrants back.
Yeah.
So he was on a golf course, phoned up the president and went, you take them or there's 25% on all your products from tomorrow except coffee. And there'll be 50% tariff on that. Within the hour, planes landing, the president sending planes to pick up their illegals. Yeah. It just takes balls.
It was a brilliant bit of statesmanship.
Because he knew what was going to happen and he doesn't care.
We thought that he'd planned that ahead.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. It wasn't just off the cuff. He was waiting for someone to step out of line.
I think he knew who was going to... And I think he picked the countries first to send it to because he knew which countries he wants to hammer.
Yeah.
And he knew they would either comply or he would put the tariffs on. And either way, he knew that would scare every president across the world. And they'll all go, he means business. I might as well just do as I'm told straight away.
Yeah.
And it's worked.
Yeah, shit, yeah.
And we've got a president, we've got a leader of a nation in the Western world who's putting his people first. It's like...
Yeah. I think it's great for England because for anyone who pays attention like us, it's inspiring because you go, there is something that can happen.
All my lifetime I've been told we can't fix any of these problems. We can't stop mass migration, we can't deport anybody, we can't cut red tape, we can't leave the EU, we can't do this, we can't leave the European Court of Human Rights, we can't do this, we can't do that. All my life I've been told why politicians can't do anything. And him in 3 weeks has just shown the world everything can be done.
Yeah.
Everything can be done. You just need to want to do it.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited.
Yeah, it gives you hope for any country, doesn't it? It's, you just think, right, okay, so if they can do it there, or it might look a little bit different over here, but it can be done.
It can be done. And it will start filtering through here and across Europe because the people, especially with social media, people are going to be looking what he's doing going, I want that here.
Yeah.
I want that here. And what politicians do is good politicians listen to the people, know what they want and where there's votes and go, I'm going to start saying I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And that's how we change the country.
Yeah. Oh, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Is there anyone that... I'm not asking you to give an endorsement, obviously, but is there anyone that is doing that? Obviously, we don't know what to think of Nigel. I can't make him out whether he's genuine or he's an absolute fucking fraudster. Genuinely, that's how I feel.
Yeah. I get asked this
I like
all the
his
time.
policy,
Yeah. I get this asked all the time. My answer is, pretend all the political parties are buses.
Yeah.
And you've got a destination you're trying to get to.
Mm-hmm.
If one of those buses is going, it says they're going to your destination, jump on the bus. The second it takes the wrong turn and you realise it's not going to where you want it to go, get off that bus and get another form of transport to get to where you want to go. At the moment, the only bus in town is Reform UK.
Yeah.
So I would get on the Reform bus, and if Nigel turns out to be a liar, or Reform go the wrong way, then I'd advise people get off the bus, and another bus will be coming along. And it might be UKIP, or it might be another party, or someone might set something else up. It could be Ben Habib setting a party up. I don't know what's coming next.
No.
But we need to we only can make choices of the things that are in front of us. No political party is perfect because they're run by humans, and we're not perfect.
You can't agree on every single policy that a party makes.
So look at the broad scheme and go, which one of those crap parties is the least crap?
Yeah.
Pick that one until another party comes along that's slightly less crap than that one. Then support that one. And that way, over time, we sort of push the parties into the way we want to go.
Okay.
In a democracy, the people always get the government they deserve.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have that written down, actually. I thought it was quite impressive from your book. I thought it was quite a good comment, actually, especially when you talk about like weak English men at the moment. That's what we deserve. We've not stood up. We've not done anything about it. Yeah.
How many people do you know go, oh, I'm not going to vote. It's as bad as each other. And it's like, you're the problem. Can you not see you're the problem?
Yeah.
You know, our forefathers, some of them died to get us to vote. You know, poor white working class people like you, we've only been voting, slightly over 100 years.
Yeah.
It was 1918, December, when poor white working class men got the vote.
Is that right?
Yes. Slightly over 100 years, and people died for that. And now, 100 years later, it's like, oh, I'm not voting. Well, what do you mean you're not voting? Well, I had a friend of mine. I voted twice now, Nick, and they never won. Doesn't work like that.
It's not a lottery.
You don't only vote when you know your side's going to win.
Yeah.
That's pathetic. But we all need to take more personal responsibility.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way this country is going to get better.
Yeah.
I feel like since I've been here, I've been lecturing you.
No, that's why we asked you to come on.
I thought it was a great intro. I was fired up after the first 5 minutes. Yeah, I thought it was brilliant. No, you're here to teach us. We're not, you'll spend a lot of time with politicians or political minds. We're not. We're two lads having a beer. We're learning.
Yep.
But yeah, we're coming from a bit of a different angle, isn't it?
We've no idea how the political system in this country works.
Yeah.
You see what's given to you on the media from when you're a kid, and we've been away from it for a long time. Then we've come back to just a fucking shit show. We thought, well, we best learn about it.
Yeah, and a lot of it's from this podcast. But as you start to learn about it, and I think it's an age thing as well, as you start to become a little bit more passionate about it. I'm pretty sure. A lot of lads turn 30, and not everybody, a lot of people will be younger, but you start caring about your environment a bit more, don't you?
It's because you put roots down. It's because, in your teens, in your 20s, you're just chasing women. That's all you do. Drinking beer and chasing women. You don't care what the government does, as long as they don't put the price of beer in closed nightclubs. You don't really care. But suddenly you hit that age where you've got a long-term partner, you may have bought a house, you may have children, you plan on children, and you're looking around going, my country's shit, and I'm going to bring my baby into this, or I've got children and I'm now worried about their future. And some second generation illegal immigrant comes into a children's dance class and stabs to death 3 of them and stabs another 8. Or 100,000 poor white girls have been gang raped over the last 30, 40 years.
That is an absolutely outrageous number. If it was 1,000, you'd be fucking upset.
Yeah. Oh, it's over 100,000. This has been going on since the 70s. It's been going on a long time. But you're looking at those things and you're going, and your protection kicks in because of your children. Or you're like, you've only got, you're trying to buy a house and you can't understand why you cannot, you're working full time with a half decent job and you can't afford to buy a house.
Yeah. And
you're like, why? And it's like, well, because we've let 15 million people in the country over the last 20 years. They live somewhere. That's why you can't afford to buy a house. Or you can't afford to go out to meet a woman, or you meet a woman, you've got no money to take her on a date. And all these things start affecting us.
Yeah.
But you've got to get through definitely your early 20s before you start looking at it. And men mature later than women. So women mature quicker than men because women have got what's the word I'm looking for? Women have got more serious choices earlier on in their lives to make because they can only get pregnant up to 30, 32 or something.
Yeah.
So by the time they get to 30, most women subconsciously want to have met a long-term partner, settled down, got somewhere to live, and had children. By the time a man gets to 25, he's not thought about settling down, so women have all their pressure at the beginning of adulthood, where ours goes a lot longer. So we don't start maturing till later.
Yeah. It's
and that's because men and women are different.
No,
men can't become women, and women can't become men. And we should stop treating women as if they're men, and we should stop treating men as if they're women.
Yep.
And that's why we have two sexes, and there is such thing as sex roles. We have far too many women in the army, far too women police officers. There's a role for them at certain levels.
Well, in our house we have it blue jobs and pink jobs.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we take it as a piss. Yeah. We're taking the piss, but it's kind of true.
Yeah, of course it is. And there's nothing wrong in that. That's how we've lived as a species for hundreds of thousands of years. And then suddenly, last century, we think we know better than 100,000 years of development.
Yeah.
And we think, do you know what? Let's get rid of all these things because we don't need them. Well, maybe we needed them because look at the state of society now. Fatherlessness, divorce. You know that we abort 250,000 babies a year in this country.
Really? That meant 250,000?
250,000 abortions a year in the UK. That's babies murdered in the womb. How can we, as a society, not look upon that and go, there's something wrong here. There's something wrong. Our society is falling apart.
Yeah.
That's really dark.
I've gone up and down about the abortion because it was a big thing in America, wasn't it? The abortion stuff. And up until 30, you should be able to do whatever. Take a pill, do whatever. And I'm very torn now because I think it's choice on the woman. But then I hear some good points put across by, you listen to Tucker Carlson or anything like that, just saying, but what are you telling the women who are aborting? You're telling them that it'll ruin their lives, it'll stop them from achieving something. When what is there to achieve other than if it makes you happy, just frigging do it. People have been, maybe we don't have to necessarily control anything. We don't have to tell a woman, you can't do that as much, but a bit more support on the other end, isn't it? Or don't drill into people's heads that it's going to ruin your life.
I would say the UK now has free contraception. There's something like 30 different types of contraception, all free on the NHS. And we have more unwanted pregnancies than ever before.
Yeah.
How does that match up? How can you have 30 different types of free contraception paid for by taxpayers that any woman, any girl, not to be a woman, any girl can get anytime they want? And we have more and more unwanted pregnancies. Those two things don't make sense.
Yeah, what is going on there?
Exactly. I'm not too sure.
I've
not got the answers.
Yeah.
It's a lack of responsibility on the part of women. It's the cult of the whore, because we've turned our women now into basically prostitutes. We celebrate women now who've got OnlyFans, which is online prostitution.
I don't think anybody actually does support this shit, though. It's just something that you see online. Like, no one actually supports any of this, does he?
Your membership counts as support.
Yeah, fucking right.
Lots of people support it. You just go on any mainstream newspaper, they're always doing stories about how this girl was a secretary or a tea lady on minimum wage last year.
That can't be true.
And then some would make a lot of money, but hardly anyone.
It's like 1% of the 1%.
But they're the ones they advertise then, and they're the ones that do the stories on and do the documentaries on. Yeah. There was a girl who started on her 18th birthday and retired on her 19th birthday in America, and she made 50 million in a year.
Oh, was it that on the Dr. Phil?
I can't remember.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so one or two women have made money on it, but it's worse than that. You go out, I'm older than you guys, so I've seen the way women dress over the last 40 years. Women now dress like pole dancers and strippers. It's the least they can wear. There's no modesty anymore now. There's no decorum. Women have lost their way. And the reason why women have lost their way is because white English fathers have lost their way. Because we don't have English fathers now in the home, looking after their children, bringing them up right. We all think that only boys need fathers. Girls need fathers as well. It's the fathers who teach girls about respect and self-respect and what men want and what men will say to you to get what they want, and how men are liars and how you can spot good men from bad men. And that's why, 100 years ago, that's why your parents, especially your father, would be involved in picking your future husband.
Yeah.
Because we by meeting a man, we know bad men when we meet them.
Yeah, immediately.
Immediately, because it's in us. Women don't, because they don't know that many men. So fathers help pick better husbands for their daughters. Why wouldn't they? They love their daughters. They want the best for their children. Of course they would pick the best partners for them. But we've lost all that. And the biggest thing we've lost in my lifetime is social shame. No one's shameful anymore now. Doesn't matter what you do. When I was a kid, my mum would say to me, don't ever bring the police to this door.
Yeah.
No one says that anymore now. Who cares? Yeah. And we started losing that with shows like...
But there's been respect for the police lost as well.
They've lost that themselves.
Yeah.
They've lost that themselves.
If you can't respect them, you can't have shame for them coming to your door.
No. But it's anything now. There was shame about being a single mum. There was, I was raised by a single mum in the 70s. I was the only kid I knew from a single parent household. 50% of the kids now live in single parent households. So things have dramatically changed. English men and English women have lost their way of raising their children in the wrong way.
Yeah.
And over time it's getting worse and worse. Then add on top of that, mass migration, multiculturalism, and this is why we're in this mess.
Yeah. With the father stuff. I think it was you talking the other day on another podcast, and the fellow come out with the stat about if a kid grows up with no father in the household, a certain amount of percentage worse. But if they grow up with no mother in the household, it actually doesn't change too much, which just shows how bloody important it is. They didn't have a necessarily bigger struggle. Obviously, mother's super important. You learn compassion, you learn everything from your mother, don't you?
Yeah.
Plenty.
It's a bit more complicated than that.
Mother,
so let me explain that. So there's a stat in America, but I've not done the work over it, but America and England are fairly similar.
Yeah.
If you don't have a father in the home, you're 40 times more at risk of abuse. Physical, mental, sexual, emotional abuse.
40 times?
Not 40%, 40 times more at risk.
Holy shit.
If you don't have a father at home. A father is your natural protector as a child. He's the one who looks after your house. People who want to do bad things to you, and you've got a father in the house, will go find a kid who hasn't got a father at home. Because when you mess with a child or anyone and there's a father at home, you risk violence. You don't know if that father's violent or not.
Yeah.
Why take the chance?
Yeah.
When there's a kid round the corner with no father at home. So we put our children at risk there. The stat about single mums and single dads is interesting. So the best way, all the stats say this in all countries, the most successful children are the children who are raised with their biological mother and father, who are married and live in the same house.
Yeah.
They raise the most positive citizens you can.
Yeah.
Next, that is single dads. And people go, I don't believe that.
No, I
Well,
was thinking that.
There's a reason for that. First of all, males are more likely to have better discipline and not take crap. But that's not as simple as that's not the answer. The answer is the men who are willing to be single dads are the best of men.
Yeah.
Because a lot of men walk away and abandon their children and abandon them and leave them with the mother. The mother might be good, average, bad, doesn't matter. She is abandoned with the children. It's only the top layer of men who go, I'm raising my child, I want to do it by myself. So that messes with the stats. It's not to say that fathers are better parents, or it's not to say mothers are worse parents. And we need to get away with the war of the sexes.
Best? Yeah. It fucking means
the answer is simple.
50-50.
No, the answer is simple. Both of them aren't as good as a married man and woman living in the house.
That's what I mean by 50-50.
So we need them both in the house. It's not one or the other.
Yeah.
You know, you need a mother just as much as you need a father, just in different ways, and vice versa. This isn't a war of the sexes.
No.
If there's many animals who will impregnate the female, and last time they see the female, I think tigers do that. Many animals do that. We don't. And the reason why we don't is because our offspring need two parents to raise them. There's a reason why we have to do it. And we can see the results when we don't do it. Prisons are full of it. Something like 85% of all men in prison in the UK come from single parent households.
It's a wild statistic.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, actually wild.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And it's sad it's not always to anyone's fault as well, is it? Sometimes it happens. Obviously, there is a problem with.
It's always someone's fault. I'm not having people say it's no one's fault. It's always someone's
fault.
Sorry,
I mean, if father passes away or something
bereavement,
rare.
Bereavement, yeah.
Course,
There's no one's fault of bereavement. But when people say she's evil, I left my wife because she's evil, she's a Nazi, she's mental. Well, all that might be true, but she was like that when you met her.
Yeah.
So really, what you're saying is you're a poor judge of character. You didn't do the homework to vet your future wife who's going to bear your children. You didn't vet them good enough. The signs were there, but you were too busy getting pussy to care, weren't you? That was, at the end of the day, that's what was wrong.
Yeah.
You should have realised that you were going to spend the rest of your life with that woman. You should have picked a better woman.
So what you're saying is that you should always take 100% responsibility for everything that you do in your own life.
It's the only way you improve.
Yeah.
And same with women. I say to women all the time, oh, he's a pig, he's a cheater. Oh, how did you meet him? Oh, he was going out with my friend and we had an affair. Well, you knew he was a cheater when you got with him, then, didn't you? How could you cheat with him and then think he's going to be faithful to you? Yeah. So all the signals are always there, but we become too lazy, too self-centered, and the back of my mind all the time is, if I make mistakes, the state will sort it out. So it doesn't matter if I'm a single mum now, the state will pay all the bills. Doesn't matter if I get this crazy woman pregnant and walk away, the state will raise my children for me. The state keeps taking away our personal responsibility, and the more it does it, the more we keep making the wrong decisions because we don't have to take responsibility for our wrong decisions.
Yeah, it gives you an out, doesn't it? And
you
can walk away with you. Well, still shouldn't have your head held high, but some people might.
But now there's no social shame either.
Yeah.
No, I know people who have got multiple children by multiple women, and it's no social shame. Yeah. The next woman they meet doesn't even think it's wrong. So you know he's got 5 kids by 3 women, and now you're with him. Mm. Are you mental?
Are you
mental? What's so special about you that you're not going to end up the 4th one with the next 2 kids? What's special about you?
Is that because we were all told that we were special in school?
It's because there's no consequences to our actions. 150 years ago.
There is consequences to your actions, though, if you live your own life in your own way.
You have to explain that to me. Sorry.
So I don't know where I was going with that. I fucking hate anyone telling me what to do at any point. Yeah. I really don't take instruction very well at all.
No.
No.
Second, yeah.
But I can never understand why people would want someone to tell them how they can and can't live their life. It fucking baffles me.
It's because it makes your life easier. The second you take
it doesn't sound fun.
It's not fun. It's just easier.
Yeah.
It's worse. You become a slave, but it's easier. Isn't it easy being a slave? You get told when to wake up, when to go to sleep, when to eat, how to work, how long to... It's easy being a slave. It's not a nice life, but it's easy because you have no decisions.
That sounds harder than what I do, though.
In one way, it isn't because they call it being institutionalized. So it happens with people in prison. So some people come out of prison and can't cope in the real world because I don't know how to make decisions because everything's been done for me or done to me or for me, and I've just followed instructions. Not everybody's a leader. Not everybody has that get up and go about them. Most people are sheep. and that's not an insult to them. But most people, you can't have a tribe of leaders. They kill each other.
Yeah.
That's why there's only ever a small percentage of people in any group who are potential leaders. The rest are just quite happy following to a certain extent. And that's what happens when you're institutionalised. I've worked with lots of people sleeping on the streets, and that's really what happened to them. I call it learned helplessness. And what happens over decades is the state has intervened in their life from being a child. And every time there's a problem, the state jumps in and fixes it for them, or makes their decision for them, or takes their kids off them and now the kids are gone, or puts them in a B&B. But they never get to make choices and see what happens once they make a choice and where that leads to, and how then they can change that choice to go that direction. All their choices are done by other people, and over decades they become helpless.
Yeah.
And they can't make decisions for themselves, and they don't want to make decisions themselves because they know, once I make this decision, if it goes wrong, it's my fault.
Yeah.
I'd rather not make the decision, because then I've left it to God. I've left it to the voodoo priestess. I've left it to, the four-leaf clover. I've given my responsibility to something else. So if it goes wrong, it wasn't my fault. And lots of people want to live like that.
Yeah.
That blows my mind.
Yeah.
In my way of thinking, anyway.
Yeah.
But we've discussed it before, is society doesn't even run without them people now, does it? The people who are willing to get up in the morning, go do maybe a simple job because they don't want to pay any attention to anything.
Yes.
And they can shut their brain up and they can go and just do something. A job's a job. Every job's great. No judgment on that. But you need them people who can just crack on every day and just not really change it up. And you need that. But
sounds fucking miserable.
Yeah. It does to us and to a lot of people, because we couldn't do it, did they? But
no. But
it's a bit like, imagine a football team. You're not going to win any games if all 11 players are Ronaldo.
Yeah.
You'd have a good chance, though.
I don't think you would. I
know what you're saying.
But
shit defence.
You need different people with different skills, with different temperaments, doing different things. And not everyone can be the striker, can be the one who goes and gets the ball and scores the goals. You need people who are doing other things. So we're all different.
So I suppose where I was going with that is, how can you convince a population that is so used to being told what to do all the time that they should actually go out there and take responsibility for their own lives, and that you don't need a fucking government to tell you what to do with your life? And how do you as a politician going forward try and convince that?
Well, I do it verbally.
Yeah.
I've taught. This is my mantra all the time. I've written books on it. But how do we do it to the country? I'm not going to talk I can't talk to 70 million people.
It does need to happen nationally.
And that's through government policy. And it would have to happen over several decades.
Yeah.
It would have to be a long project. And it would start by making benefits harder to get. And if you can get them, not as lucrative.
Yeah.
It's about forcing people off sickness and off unemployment into jobs, any job. And if you don't do it, you get nothing. And
the jobs have been taken by a bunch of illegal immigrants that we've brought in. That's why the labour's so fucking cheap.
Yeah. So, that's a different issue, but we do need to solve that. None of it's going to be simple, but it's about demanding people take more responsibility for their lives. We need to get rid of lots of laws. We need to stop, things like we need to stop feeding kids in 6 weeks holidays at schools.
The schools feed the kids now?
During 6 weeks holidays, yeah.
Do they fuck?
They do.
Is that true?
Yeah. Most schools now give all kids free breakfasts. Why? Because parents stop feeding their kids. So every time failing parents stop doing something, the government steps in and starts doing their job. So we're taking more and more responsibility away from parents. And some lazy parents go, well, if you're going to be fed at school, just go to school and get fed. I don't have to get out of bed now either.
Yeah.
We need to force people to start being responsible for them and their families, especially their children.
Yeah.
But we keep taking it away all the time. And we tax people too much.
Yeah.
And that'd be the incentive I would do. I'd say, you're all going to have a lot more responsibility. There's going to be less state services. But do you know what? Income tax has gone down to 8%.
Yeah.
I fucking wish.
That's what we need. We need to give them more money and say, you run your lives. We need certain service because I don't want people starving on the streets.
No.
But if you're not starving on the streets, then it's not our concern.
There has to be a mattress at absolute bottom.
There has to be
a mattress at absolute rock bottom for people.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to get to the stage where people living. It happens now, living down the streets. Yeah. Last couple of months we've had two rough sleepers in Manchester City Centre down the streets, and we're spending billions and everything. So we need to make sure people don't fall that low. But everyone else, it's like crack on.
Yeah.
You have people turn up at the council going, we're overcrowded. There's 5 of us in this house. And 3 bedrooms and Well, do you know what? I would get rid of overcrowding. No such thing as overcrowding now. You live with your parents, or you live in there, it's overcrowded. Well, you think it's overcrowded, but there's no legal definition now of overcrowded. Sort your own shit out, people.
Yeah, it's your fucking life.
Stop coming to us asking for a council house when there's no council houses, and at least you've got a roof over your head, haven't you?
Yeah.
So that's...
Yeah.
So my granddad always tells stories that when he was a kid, they used to have... the classic tramp would come through the farm, especially in the summer months, and they'd work through the hay timing season to stay in the hay barn, so they had somewhere to stay. Yeah. And he said that disappeared after the war.
Yeah, and to be fair, things like that. I'm glad we've got rid of that. That was real poverty. We don't have real poverty in the UK.
No,
we really don't. The only poverty we have in the UK is a poverty of aspiration. That's the only poverty we're lacking in the UK.
Can you explain that?
People have no aspiration now to do better themselves, to take control, to take charge. We're always being told, there's child poverty and this poverty and that poverty. None of it exists. It's all made up by socialists, sat in universities with equations and stats going, if we do this and add that and take that away and multiply it by that, we can pretend that we've got 1.5 million poor children in the UK. Let's put that out in the news and we'll get more money. Poverty does not exist in the UK the way most people think poverty is.
Yeah.
The legal definition of poverty in the UK is living in a household where the income is something like 40% less than the average income. That's called poverty. A child's living in poverty if they don't have access to a smartphone and don't go on at least one foreign holiday a year. That's called poverty. These are all legal definitions that the government abides to. So when you hear government stats about poverty or homelessness and stuff like that, those stats are meaningless because those titles don't mean what you think they mean.
Yeah. A lawyer has gotten hold of the word poverty.
It's charities.
Charities,
charities in the big charities in the UK are a huge problem. They are basically multinational companies who are ripping everybody off. And I should know, I've run a charity.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Charities. So let's look at one of the kids' charities about reducing poverty and stuff like that. So they had a definition of what poverty was. Suddenly in the 80s, it's like, oh shit, we've got there. Right, what are we going to do? Well, we could close down and we all could be made redundant and we could give our pensions up and there's no more easy work, or...
Charities give out pensions to their workers?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Really good pensions.
And
that seems outrageous.
Well, they're an employer though, aren't they, technically? Yeah.
So government pension, but surely...
No, the private pensions in charities. Mm-hmm. Every employer now, by law, has to have a pension.
Yeah.
And I've got no problem with paying. If you work for a charity, well, it's a job. Just like a nurse and a doctor's a job. Yeah. You should be paid if you're doing a good job, and you should have a pension. I ain't got a problem with that.
I was thinking as a volunteer.
Volunteers get nothing.
Right.
But they look like in the 80s, we've solved poverty in the UK, child poverty. Unless we redefine what poverty means.
Yeah.
We can go on again for another 20 years, can't we?
And then they keep moving the goalposts.
And they keep moving the goalposts all the time. And that's what happens with all these big charities. They're a scam.
So why do we never hear about this sort of stuff?
Because nobody wants you to know. The governments don't want the hassle. Mm-hmm. Because the governments go, we've given money to these charities to solve these issues. So we're good guys, aren't we?
Yeah, so we've done our job.
We've done our job. It looks like we're doing something. The charities then make sure they send out good signals of, look what we're doing, we've helped this child, and everyone feels a little bit better. They achieve nothing, but everyone feels a little bit better.
Yeah.
That's a charity sector for you. Not all charities.
No.
Small charities do great work, and people ask me all the time, I want to donate to a charity. And you should. Find a small local charity where you live doing something you care about. Is it donkeys? Which I hate people giving money to animal charities. I don't care about animals. But if you want to do that, then do that. But look for something small where you live. Sponsor a local youth club. Sponsor a local, homeless kitchen providing food, or a food bank. It's things you can do. And even if it's only £2-3 a month, direct debit, that helps. If people do that, that's regular money coming into those charities. But do it for small local charities. Never give money to any of the big charities. Never give money to Comic Relief. Never give money to Children in Need, because you're giving it to a middle person who takes a slice off.
And you've got 20 big cats sat there taking.
And then they divide that to other smaller charities. So forget slicing it off. Give it straight to the small charities.
Yeah.
I think we did go down this route on one episode of looking at all the big charities and how much of a percentage each charity was given to administration compared to actual whatever their cause was. And some of them were in like 90% administration rates.
Yeah, because
it's just fucking outrageous.
Rents, staffing costs, pension costs, all these things, all adds up. For the big charities, can you think of any problem that a charity has solved? When was the last time a charity said, we set up so many years ago to solve this problem, we've solved it, and now we're closing? Because thank you for the money, a donation.
Oh no, nothing's ever closed.
It's a continual scam.
The lifeboat one's a pretty good one. But I'm sure that, was it the RNLI? The Lifeboat Association? Yeah. They're a pretty good one to have.
Well, you'd think so, apart from they're a taxi service for illegal immigrants.
Well, yeah, apart from that bit, yeah.
And do you know that some of your donations you give to them, they spend around the world? There was one project we were funding.
The RNLI spends money abroad?
Abroad?
No.
Sponsoring projects. They sponsored one project, I think it was Bangladesh, teaching Bangladeshi girls how to swim in full burqas.
Isn't Bangladesh landlocked?
No.
Is it not?
No. It's on the Bengal, Gulf of Bengal or something. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Well, thank God for that.
Yeah. So they're spending your money on woke crap.
Yeah.
It isn't just on the boats. So all these big charities make me sick.
Donkeys are still on the beach. They fix nothing. They're still walking down that beach.
Exactly.
Just out of interest, just a local question. Have you had much to do with Cash for Kids? The stuff that goes on at Christmas. Obviously, it's all year round, but I always have a big push at Christmas.
When I've run the charity, we did some stuff with them in Manchester, yeah.
What do you think to them? I've always quite liked...
So my understanding is all the presents are donated, and it's the radio station that organises it.
Yeah.
I don't believe they take any admin costs out of it and stuff like that. I believe they just organise the picking up and the delivery of presents. As a small charity, we've had presents off them to give out to the kids we were working with. They make sure you are a charity or a community group. It's not like you can turn up and take 50 presents.
Yeah.
You have to. They check you out to make sure you're then not selling it on the market next week. I don't. Unless I looked into it, I don't have a problem with them.
No, I've always liked this. Yeah, there is nothing. I'm sure they work on fixing the problem or trying to help. But at the end of the day, it's just one of them very basic ones. There isn't a problem. There is a problem, but we're not necessarily trying to fix it. We're just trying to make people happy at Christmas or at this time. And we're just doing something nice for people. And I always thought that was quite a nice charity. That one.
It is. If you want to be cynical, which I always am, you need to ask yourself, does that achieve anything?
Yeah.
All those parents can't afford presents for their kids today.
So
you give them all presents. Has anything changed with those parents? No.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that.
All it is, I mean, it's not doing any harm to a certain extent. It makes us all feel good. But is it changing anything? And we have far too many charities like this. It's all about feeling good. I would change the reach of the Charity Commission if I ever became Prime Minister. I'd change the way the charity sector works completely. But one of the things I would change would I'd make it harder to register as a charity. I would make sure your aims as a charity were aims that were going to improve the country, not only make people feel better.
Yeah, okay.
There's charities out there for people who are dying of cancer, and they're a charity raising money so that person can get married before they die. Yeah, waste of money. It's like, it's nice for the two people getting married, but we've just spent $5,000 on that now, and now they've died. He or she is a widow or widower, and well, couldn't that have money been spent better somewhere else in society? And we have lots of...
Especially when we have so many problems.
Exactly. So we have too many charities doing nonsense work. I'm not saying people don't enjoy it and some people don't get stuff out of it, but on a when you're trying to fix problems, there's certain problems that don't need fixing or we're just wasting money on. Did you hear about the footballers' wives about 15 years ago? So some footballers' wives got together and set a charity up called 5 Star. About 15 years ago, I think it was. And they organised loads of charity balls and afternoon teas with marquees, and everybody was paying £500 a head to attend, and they raised something like, I think I'm guessing the figure now, let's say it was £500,000 over the summer. Sounds good. Donating to charity. They took their expenses out and donated the rest to charity. They donated just under £5,000. Everything else was spent on the events. They were getting limousines to drive them around. They were getting helicopters to fly them to the venue. Everything they did was coming out of the charity. They donated just under £5,000 to their designated charity out of approximately £500,000. They got kicked out of the charity sector and weren't allowed ever to set a charity up again. Yeah. But that's an extreme case. Yeah. That doesn't happen very often. It's an extreme case. But this is how some people treat charities, and that's what some charities achieve. And then you can get some really small charities who are doing some amazing work on a shoestring. And they've only got, maybe one paid member of staff and 5 volunteers. The volunteers are spending their evenings free doing stuff. The paid member staff's working full time on paperwork and insurance and this and that and writing bids and bringing money in. And you look at what they can achieve on a shoestring budget and you think, that's a real charity.
Yeah. And we're back.
Grand. Yeah. Get off the negatives. Well, not negatives, but the problems with the world. You'll introduce it, but so you pretty much just released the book, haven't you? October. Yeah. So do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's my 4th book. This book is called England, My England, The Death and Resurrection of the Greatest Country Ever to Exist. I started writing it. I decided I was going to write it after the Stockport incident. That was a turning point. I went, I need to write something about this. And I wrote an article about how we could be heading to civil war, and that then turned into the book. I'd written many articles before that on different parts of it, and luckily they all fitted into the book. They needed changing a bit, but some of the work had been done. So I wrote the book quicker than it would normally take me to write a book. I wanted to put on paper the same sort of discussion we started this podcast with about personal responsibility, about this country is not finished, and the more people degrade this country and talk this country down, well, the worse this country is. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I've had personal friends say to me, I've had a couple. One wants to move to Poland, and one wants to move to Lithuania. 2 want to move to America. Because this country's crap, this country's over, this country's finished, immigration has killed it. And I went, all right, so you want to be a migrant, do you? And go to another country, and you're complaining about migrants coming here. So now you're just going to be a different type of migrant going somewhere else. Is that what you're telling me? And you can see him going, yeah. Oh. Sorry, I'm having this conversation with Nick. I forget sometimes he's an arse. And what people, and then I use the C word then. I use the C word all the time now. And the C word is coward. So I say to them, so you're going to run away.
Yeah.
So your answer to all our problems in this country is you're going to run away. Good job you were around in 1939, isn't it? when Nazi Germany was just across the channel. Good job you didn't run away then. What happened if all the Englishmen would have ran away then? What about when Napoleon, again, was opposite the channel? He was waiting for 6 hours of nice weather. That's all he said he was waiting for, to launch an invasion into England. Good job we weren't around then, were you, running away? Spanish Armada. 3 times the Spanish tried to invade the UK, England. And 3 times we stopped the Armada. Sometimes lucky with the weather, but we stopped them. Good job you weren't around then, because you'd have ran away. Is that what you're telling me? You sound like a coward. And I'm frank with people now, because that's what they are, the cowards. Rather than saying, do you know what, Nick, this country's a mess, but I'm going to stay and fight, because it's the only way you get a better country.
I don't think most of them are cowards, because they're more than willing to go and get in a fucking scrap on a Friday night. Most of the blokes I know are more than willing
bravery
to go and have a
scrap.
scrap.
There's a fine line between bravery and stupidity.
Are they the men who are saying they want to emigrate?
Some of them, yeah.
I'm not. Yeah, I would. Exactly. I don't know who you're referring to there, but
well, they're the same people that will say. Those kind of people will say this country's fucked. We should be leaving anyway.
And that's because partly coward, but partly because they can't figure out how to save it. Mm-hmm. They automatically think, well, it can't be saved.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying to them is, you're in a nice way. You're not clever enough to work out the answers. That's what you mean. There's many answers how we improve this country, how we save this country. Just because you can't figure that out doesn't mean someone else can't figure that out. And just because you say this country is over, you say this country is over because that gives you an excuse then. If this country
gives you an out. Yeah.
Gives you an out. If this country is over, then there's no point me trying to fight for it and trying to fix it, because this country is finished. So these are all excuses you give yourself not to take personal responsibility for your country. So if we had people like that when we had conscription in the First and Second World War, we had children joining up.
Yeah, kids at 16,
13, 14-year-olds joining up in the First World War.
Yeah.
And now they did a questionnaire with young people a couple of months ago between 18 and 34, and something like a third of young men in this country between 18 and 34 said they wouldn't even fight for the country if it was being invaded.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
We spoke this as well, haven't we? We said that if our government now decided that we needed to go abroad to fight, I wouldn't trust them enough to go and fight for them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a big problem as well. It's the trust in why we're going to war. But if there was a genuine reason,
I think Iraq did that. And
another one would be not being sent to war, but another one would be, what are you fighting for?
Yeah.
You're fighting for this country. Oh, the country that spent the last 50 years telling white men that you're the problem.
But now you need us.
Persecuting white men. Can't get certain jobs because you're a white man. You live in a country where you can't afford to buy a home, where if you demonstrate on the streets around problems, you'll be arrested. You can't tweet on Twitter in case you do 3 years in jail. And you want me to fight for this country? Maybe, someone will say, maybe I'll be better off if Putin invades. Because Putin sounds like a man to me. I wouldn't want anyone to invade. I'm an English patriot. This country should only be run by English patriots. But you can understand how the thought process goes to this country.
You can see the logic in it.
Yeah, this country does nothing for me, gives me nothing, and persecutes me. Why am I fighting for it? Because whoever replaces the British government,
it's hard to argue.
Can they be any worse and treat me any worse than you treat me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard argument to go against, isn't it?
A lot of this, which I mentioned in the book, is foreign interference in our state and in our government and in our communities. This has been going on.
And ineptitude in the leaders.
Again, yeah. But if you look at it as foreign powers, so during the Cold War, it was Russia.
Yeah.
The best way to conquer a country is to demoralise the people who live there. They're less likely to fight. So the Russians started it during the Cold War. Russia's not a problem to us anymore now. Russia can't even beat Ukraine, for God's sake. They're going to do anything else in Europe? I don't think so. China is the threat we need to be careful of. We'll be having a war with China in our lifetime.
Yeah.
A war's coming. So China plays the long game. Chinese.
If they go after Taiwan.
Yeah. And they won't stop at Taiwan. They'll be going into Russia. There's all sorts China wants. And China will want wars, because if China does not have external enemies, they will be having civil war in China. China is huge. China is something like 3-4 times the size of Europe. And every province in China is like a European country to a certain extent, completely different to the province next door.
Have you listened to the Rogan podcast with that? What was his name, Dan? He went through the statistics of China, and the population decrease is just it's fucking running off a cliff.
Yeah,
he reckons by 2040 the country will be almost dead on its arse.
Possibly, I've not seen that, but I know that China internal strife will happen, because you've got a big middle class now. So when they start getting poorer, they're not going to be happy with it. The more money the provinces have got, the more they can see the outside world, the more they're going to want to be separate. Nationalism will take over. Chinese Communist Party kills them all for that, but how much can they kill for that? How many can they kill? So to stop internal revolutions, they have to have external enemies. And that's what all dictators have to have, external enemies. We're saving you from them. If there's no one to save you from, you're going to start looking at me as the enemy. So there's always external enemies. So China will create wars to keep their people in line. But they've been planting seeds across the West. You know, they've infiltrated the universities.
Massively.
They funded a lot of the LGBT nonsense and the Free Palestine nonsense. Our enemies are funding this because it's slowly destroying us. We're doing the same in some other countries. This isn't new. People have always done this throughout, millennia. This is what you do before you have wars. You try to demoralise your enemy, and that's happening to us. And young people are demoralised. The country's demoralised. We don't trust anyone. We don't know our neighbours anymore now. We're too transient. You don't live in the same house for that long now. You don't know your neighbours, your children, don't grow up in the same area.
You're not involved in the community as much.
In the community, these are all things that are making us unhappy and depressed. And then you wonder why 20% of women in the UK are on antidepressants. You wonder why 5,000 men in England and Wales kill themselves every year. Because we're unhappy. We don't know why we're unhappy. And we end up buying stuff, and that makes us happy for 30 seconds. And then we're unhappy again for another year till we buy something else new and expensive and shiny. That makes us happy for 30 seconds. But what really makes us happy is family, friends, children and community. That's what makes you happy. Women are on antidepressants because many of them are not having children. That's the greatest gift to a woman, is to have a baby grow inside them and then give birth and be a mother. Women are semi-divine. They create life. It's amazing. But feminism have told women that's a crap job. Men will get you pregnant to control you. The best thing you can do is have a career. Have a career? How many women do you think lie in a deathbed going, oh, if only I could have signed that deal with Fujitsu, I'd have been so much happier. People lie in their deathbed saying, I should have been a better son. Should have been a better wife, a better husband. That's what people say in a deathbed. And that's because when you're dying, you realise what was important. And all this other bullshit we have isn't important. It's family, it's children, it's friends.
Is it because we don't hear that from our grandparents anymore? They just get shoved in a care home, and
that's almost as bad as the abortion issue. So
that angers me more than anything.
What do we do now with our old people? We dump them onto the state, don't we? So the state can look after them. The state can employ immigrants to wipe their ass and look after them on minimum wage, who then abuse them. Because we don't want them. We see old people now as a problem. I'll put you in a home, and that's only started in the last 30 years. Before that, we had intergenerational households where, there's a reason why we live so long. There's a reason why we live into our 60s, 70s, 80s. Most animals, once you've gone past your reproductive benefit of being able to have children, you die. Some intelligent animals like elephants and us and some other animals, once you've stopped reproducing, we carry on living, and there's a reason for that. That's because we're needed to raise our children's children. That's why we live so much longer. It's difficult raising children. So grandparents are extra sets of parents who can look after children when the real parents are going out working, hunting, killing, collecting berries, toiling the farm, whatever. When those parents get stressed with their children, you hand them over to your to the grandparents. That's what they're there for. Grandparents have a wealth of knowledge. They're the ones who are then with a new type of education to their grandchildren about what it was like in the olden days. This is how you do baking. This is how you do this. How you do a bit of gardening. Grandparents are valuable in the bringing up and education of their grandchildren, but we see old people now as a problem. And what do we do with problems? We expect the state to sort that problem out. We treat our old people appallingly, and it's a shame on all of us.
And there's good money in it.
There is, but they don't get the care. And I don't care if they get the care, and I don't care who's taking the money. We have personal responsibility. We have responsibility for our parents, just like they had responsibility for us. And this is another example of us dumping our responsibility on other people. And I know people will be screaming at this podcast because they've done it, and they're going, but we both work full time, and how can we look after them? And we've got them a nice home, and it costs us a fortune. Well, good for you. You shouldn't be working, should you? One of you should be at home. You know, there's ways around this. They should be living in the house with you, not 4 miles away. Yeah. How many children now live miles away from their parents, other side of the country, other side of the world?
Yeah,
we did.
Yeah,
yeah, we did. Yeah. And you know, we both moved home because we said something wasn't right. You had to be around your family, which is interesting because as we get more involved with what we're doing, we're starting to realise that even more.
It's all relevant, isn't it?
But don't forget, your parents weren't that old when you were gone. I'm talking
no, they weren't.
I'm talking about elderly people now. You know, they know that we abandoned them. We just abandoned them. And I know deep down inside, in the heart of every child who does that, there's something niggling in them. There's something there going, I know it's convenient. I know everyone else is doing it. And I'm going to do it. But deep down inside, they know they shouldn't be doing it. Just like abortion. Yeah. We all know it's wrong. And you might be able to convince yourself otherwise. You know, people say, oh, well, would you make a 14-year-old girl who was raped by her father have that child? It's like, that never happens. Out of the 250,000 babies being killed in the UK, that might be once. That might be once in that year. Yeah. So that isn't the answer, is it? And we all know.
And there should be exceptions for that circumstance.
I just said that a few years ago.
Yeah.
But I've become harder on this now because my answer to that is, so because an evil father did something evil to his daughter, we're now going to kill an innocent baby that did nothing wrong to anybody.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I understand it. I don't think that you should have to force a 14-year-old to go through the shame of having her fucking father's daughter because she was raped by him.
How about she gives birth, wants the baby, and then
if she wants it, yeah, fine. But if she doesn't,
but how about 2 weeks later she decides she doesn't want it because every time she sees the baby, it reminds her of being there. Can she kill it then?
Of course not.
So why does it matter if the baby's outside of the womb or in the womb?
Well, there should be a very short period. You shouldn't be allowed to have an abortion like 3 hours before fucking labour.
You can in this country.
No, you can't.
You can. People think in this country it's a 24-week limit.
Yeah.
So the problem in the US is that we're upset because it was a 28-week limit, which is outrageous.
Every state was different.
Yeah, on average.
In this country, anyone can have an abortion up to 24 weeks.
24 weeks?
24 weeks. But you can abort a baby in this country up to the hour you give birth, as long as you get a doctor to sign it off. And it happens every year. Not many.
No.
Not many, but we can abort babies.
I mean, I'm hoping that there's some serious medical conditions for that.
Well, you'd think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
you can abort a baby on a day of birth if it has a club foot, if it has a cleft palate.
Right. Yeah, I did not know that.
They're disabled to a certain extent, but you can abort a baby that was going to be born an hour from now with if it's got a club foot and a doctor signs it off.
I mean, it makes sense if you hear that you just had a scan or something and your baby's brain dead. That makes sense. To me, it does anyway. But a cleft lip.
Yep.
That can't be
People,
true.
100% true. People don't know this.
No, I didn't know. I
People
didn't know.
don't know this.
Absolutely fucking
Yeah,
outrageous.
I was always under the impression that they've still got the same amount of time, and if they find it, and they say, right, your baby's got this problem, they still had the same amount of time. I didn't know.
No, all you need is a doctor to sign off.
Right.
That's all you need. No, we either value life or we don't value life. That's why we've got this assisted dying bill coming in. It's because in this country now we don't value life. Life's important. I'm not even religious.
No.
But life's important or it's not important. And once we go down the path of saying that life isn't as important as other people's lives, then that turns us into tyrants and monsters.
Well, the assisted dying bill, it has a place. You know, you don't want to see a loved one dying the most. Like some of these diseases that you can die of, right, over 6 months are fucking horrendous. You should be able to take your life sooner if there's no way around it.
People can commit suicide.
Yeah.
But what people don't want to commit suicide. People want the state
to do it for
them.
Yeah.
Again, no personal responsibility.
Yeah.
If my mum was in horrendous pain and dying, I'd kill her if she wanted me to. And I would take responsibility and I'd take the punishment if it got to court and stuff like that. I don't want the state involved, because what will happen when the state is involved is I'll be saying, someone like me will be saying to my mum, you're a drain on us.
Yeah.
You're a drain, and we know you're dying. You've only got 4 months left to live, but this is going into your savings, Mum. By the time you die, there's going to be nothing left for little Jimmy and Margaret for their college fund, and we can't afford to come anymore now. You are ruining their lives. It'd be better for you, Mum, and for everybody if we can take you to assisted suicide. That's what will happen, because it happens everywhere. We some humans are evil. And this is what will happen. Again, we either protect life or we don't protect life. And if we can say that a baby in the womb, it's okay to kill them because they're brain dead. All right, well, that makes sense. What happens if we have someone lying in a hospital, an adult who's been in a car accident, is brain dead? Can we kill them? I never understand why it's okay. Yeah. It's okay in the womb, but once you've left it, the womb's a special place, because once you've left it, you can't be killed anymore now.
But you do unplug people that are brain dead in comas.
They do?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
are you drawing the line between the fact that they're dying themselves still? You turn the plug off and they can't survive? Or?
So they unplug them, they don't kill them. It's like we're not going to support them anymore, and then they naturally die. They're not killed. It's just...
Well, you'd have to tell yourself that if you were turning the plug off.
I know, but
you know.
Yeah, I mean, they either stay alive or they don't stay alive, because it's the machine keeping them alive. I've just got a real issue of deeming, because we've seen this before, this is what we did during slavery, and everyone's been slaves across the world. It's like, these people aren't like us, therefore they don't have the same rights as us, therefore we can enslave them. Nazi Germany, did it with the Jews. The Jews aren't like us, so therefore we can exterminate them.
Yeah, other in people.
We're either all human from the second we're conceived as human, because if you take a 1 hour old embryo and we liquidize both and test the DNA, both the DNA will say human. Because at that moment, they're both humans. Even after 1 hour of being a fertilized egg, you're now human. Your DNA's set, all the chromosome, you're human. So we've either got human rights or we don't. Or we rename them birthed human rights.
Yeah.
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 There has to be a distinction, isn't there?
Yeah. We either protect life or we don't. And if we don't protect life, it's a slippery slope. You've seen what's happening in Canada.
Yes.
Mentally ill people now are killing themselves, homeless people.
Shopping for doctors that will sign off.
Yep, sign off. The saddest case was a Belgian girl. She was in the nightclub, the Bataclan nightclub in Paris, when the Islamic terrorists attacked 10 years ago with machine guns and killed 30, 40 people. Yeah. Killed some of her friends. She saw them die. Never got over it. Became a manic depressive. Couldn't get over seeing her friends die.
Understandable.
And a couple of years later, she went to Switzerland, assisted suicide, killed herself.
Holy shit.
The people who killed all those people are alive in jail.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And she takes her own life. She didn't need to die. What she needed was better mental health services.
Yeah.
But we allowed her to be another victim of those Islamic nut jobs and to kill herself. That can't be right. I'm sure she was suffering. I'm sure she was.
Oh, yeah, of course she was.
But that's not the answer. Is better mental health services for her to get over the trauma she's seen, genuine trauma. But allowing her to take her own life isn't the answer.
No.
No, it's not. No.
Because we were talking about it the other day. Because you've been on trigonometry, haven't you?
Mm.
Yeah. Did you listen to the one they covered on the Canada's assisted suicide the other day?
Not if it's a new one, no.
No, it's
Right.
really worth it. It's where they're
Yeah.
at the minute.
Yeah.
And you go there and you can say, I'm depressed. And they'll go, it's not really enough. Is your leg hurting as well? Yeah. Oh, no, is it stopping you from eating? Yeah. Right. 2 ticks. You can go today and they'll give you your pills.
And they literally just give you pills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can take them home.
Yeah.
Go home, kill yourself. And it was any reason, you can go do it. And it just made us think, like, how quickly it could turn. You allow it in a country now. But who knows if you can get that far in England? Canada's a pretty wild place in the minute, isn't it? But it could go that way.
So the assisted design, do you think that they should base it only off certain diseases? The degenerative diseases?
No assisted dying.
No?
Life's valuable or it's not valuable. The state should have no part in taking your life unless you're a criminal. I'm for the death penalty, by the way. So,
really? So I'm the opposite. I think that if they can tell you that you can't kill someone, they shouldn't be allowed to tell you that you can't kill someone. It's hypocrisy.
Well, initial thoughts is that, but we kill people all the time in this country.
Oh yeah, when we go to war.
We train soldiers to kill. We have armed police who kill people.
Yep.
We abort 250,000 babies a year. The NHS doesn't fund certain procedures, so people die. But the difference with capital punishment is that person is guilty of something. Society has said we don't want that person living with us anymore because of a danger. So that person then forfeited their rights to live amongst us. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Assisted suicide, even for terminal diseases and illnesses, we need to mitigate their pain.
Yeah.
And if a family relative wants to take it in their own hands, then I hope the court will treat them fairly when they get to court. But that's personal responsibility. Because after we get assisted suicide, what comes next then is selected suicide, where the state then goes, far too many disabled people, haven't we? They cost us a fortune. Maybe we assist their suicide.
Yeah. Maybe put them on a train.
Yeah. Do you know what? We've got far too many far-right Nazis complaining on Twitter. Maybe we pass a law where we can assist suicide them. Once you give governments that, they push and push and push. Yeah. The British assisted suicide bill at the moment is now looking at including depressed people, mentally ill people. So we're already, it's not even in law yet, and we're already looking at expanding it to mentally ill people who are not dying.
Yeah.
We're already expanding it. And Angela Rayner was on TV talking about it, saying, well, there are going to be safeguards for that. We're going to have a panel of judges who make sure that mentally ill people aren't suicidal.
Sorry, what?
I'm like, well, it makes no sense. What do you mean? You're going to make sure they're not suicidal so they can kill themselves, so you can kill them? The whole point is they're suicidal.
Yeah.
These people are idiots.
Ridiculous.
And this creep is already starting with the assisted suicide bill. I don't want to give the government that power. I want a smaller state doing less things for us. You know, if my mum needs to die to stop her pain and she wants to die, I'll take responsibility for that, not the state. State does nothing well. But
no, they don't do anything well.
They don't do
That's
anything
the
good.
problem.
Yeah, but death penalty, 100%.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
In certain cases.
I mean, you want it. Certain cases.
Certain cases.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, we'd have to get past the,
Yeah.
the mistakes were made in the past. But, we have technology now. So how about we only execute people?
Yeah, but how often are they wrong? That's also a problem.
In the past, but we don't have technology. How about this?
We just sent how many people to jail for fucking hurty words on Facebook over the last year?
Yeah, and we'll still carry on doing that, but that's not death penalty. So death penalty. How about a death penalty would be?
I wouldn't want a government that can send me to jail for hurty words to also have the ability to send out death penalties.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but here are the safeguards I'd want. I'd want the crime caught on video.
Yeah.
So we all have cameras.
Yeah.
CCTV. So has to be caught
the most viewed country in the world.
Yeah. So it has to be caught on camera. There has to be so many witnesses. And there has to be DNA evidence.
And an admission of guilt.
No.
No?
No admission, because they would say no. So what they are, I mean, a great example would be those two jihadist idiots in London who chopped off, who killed Lee Rigby and chopped his head off. Caught on camera, 150 witnesses covered in blood.
Yeah.
Why are we locking them up forever?
I don't think anyone would have had a problem if a police officer turned up and shot them both out.
But he would have been done for murder because...
Yeah, of course he would. Well, look at that guy in London the other week. The police officer that was in court for shooting a guy for driving at him with a car.
Yeah.
Outrageous.
Yeah. But death penalty for those guys, I don't see a problem with that because it would have to hit that criteria. And there is no room there for... And I'd also have a new law that anybody who interferes in a capital punishment case, like a police officer, planting evidence, anything like that, would be a charge of attempted murder, and that would be a death penalty case.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That would stop police officers planting evidence. He'd be like, no, you get caught doing this, you die.
Yeah.
And that's how we would stop that. But for those sort of cases, first of all, it's torture. We're locking those two mental people up forever now. It's going to cost us tens of millions. Let's just put them out of the misery. Just like we do a rabid dog. Put them out of the misery, move on. Yeah.
You might have turned me.
I keep saying this. I'm a big fan of... I don't even know if it's even possible. But small decisions by the whole country. So if you could meet every bit of that criteria, so say the Southport guy, and he's admitted, and go, okay, right, do you want to lock him up forever, or do you want him gone? And you put it out.
Yeah.
And if 51% of England go, get him gone. I'd enjoy something like that. I always say, don't I? I like small vote. I don't even know if it's a thing. I know Poland have just been discussing it. They do small referendums on things, so they're just doing.
And so does Switzerland.
Do they?
Yeah, they have a referendum.
Put a lot of things to referendum.
Yeah, he was just doing an interview with Nigel Farage, and it was they're doing the general election, but alongside that, when you go to the, this is how I understood it. When you go to the polls, you will also do a referendum, a small vote on. Do you want to continue with no migration?
Yeah.
Immigration. So it's just on that one specific subject. So the country can not only decide who's governing them, but that exact rule.
Yeah.
We spoke about it before. I quite like the idea of doing small decisions in government.
I think there's a place for that because that brings people into the decision-making process better. Yeah. Especially if it's a topic where the main parties are not divided on it. You know, if the Tories were let's keep out of Europe and Labour were let's rejoin Europe, well, you don't need a referendum on that because there's a distinction between the parties. If you want to join Europe, you'd vote Labour and vice versa. But when you've got something that there is no party that's standing that because all the parties all split themselves on it, then the referendum is a good indication for those parties that they might need to change their own policies because suddenly the referendum says 70% of people want this.
Yeah.
Well, those politicians might go, well, we need to start wanting that as well because that's 70% of the population. We need a bit more direct democracy.
Why don't parties do like more of their own referendums to find as feelers to the public? Like, why? I've never been asked by a political party what I would like.
That's because every time they ask the people what they want, they never get the answer they want.
But that's not what they're there for.
Yeah.
But that's what they think they're there for. The politicians are there to rule you and govern you. Because you're too stupid to know what you want. If we leave it all up to you...
Well, yeah, I'm sure that's what they think.
No, I'm sure that's what
and
they
think.
And
we all think the opposite way. You're too fucking stupid to do what we want to do.
Politicians never want to hear off the public in a genuine sense because politicians all know what they're going to do. The reason why they know what they're going to do is they're always trying to keep their party in line. They're always trying to keep their voters, their voter base and the party members happy. They know what they want, the party members. And if they upset the party members, I might not be able to stand again as an MP. You're irrelevant until it comes to a general election.
And then you're all over it.
And then I'll lie my socks off to you. So you'll vote for me. But I always have to make sure the members are happy and stuff like that. So that's how parties work.
They come across as everything that they say is a fucking nonsense. I know you just said you don't listen to trigonometry, but they've recently done like a 2-hour sit down with Kimmy Badenoch.
That's on my list to watch this weekend.
And I couldn't make fucking arse a tail of it. She doesn't say anything.
No.
She said 2 hours worth of shit
right.
and didn't say
I've not listened to that yet.
Yeah, because she is trying to keep her party together and trying to keep her job.
Everything was a platitude.
Yeah.
And, it was the most painful thing I've listened to.
I saw a 30-second clip. It was like, oh, Jesus. I know.
Yeah. And she's presenting herself as the best hope to get rid of Starmer.
Yeah.
It was bad.
She won't be opposition leader at the next general election.
I do not think.
She's an interim leader.
Right.
Whoever took over next was only going to be a caretaker leader, because the Tories are in a mess. The Tories still don't know who they are, what they want, and where they're going. So she's just a part-time leader until they work out who they are. And then a new leader will come forward, someone who hasn't got 14 years of Tory stench on them, of the incompetence of the last government. She stinks of Tory incompetence.
Yeah.
So I would never vote for her.
I would never have put it so eloquently, but that's
So
pretty much how I felt.
Whoever comes next will be a new face Tory who wasn't in the government and stuff like that. Because at the moment, how can she ask us to vote for her when her and her party had 14 years and ruined everything?
Yeah.
No credibility. And still hasn't really admitted the mistakes, still hasn't apologised, still
wouldn't admit the mistakes.
No, exactly. And
they pressed her quite hard and would not admit anything.
Yeah, and she's pro-mass migration. She's stood up in Parliament many times wanting more migration. I don't even think she's British. I don't class her as British. She's a Nigerian. Her mum came over here, gave birth, and then got in the next plane and went back to Nigeria for 16 years.
Right.
Kemi didn't come back, apart from being born here. Kemi was raised in Nigeria, came back here when she was 16, 17.
Yeah.
I don't class her as English or British.
Yeah.
She's a migrant. She called herself a migrant in Parliament. This isn't me being racist. She called herself a migrant when she was running for MP in London. On her posters, she had that she was a Nigerian migrant and Nigerians need to vote for me and that I'm your person. So she's played on the fact she's a migrant.
As a conservative.
Yeah, and I don't want a migrant running my country.
No.
I ain't got a problem with Priti Patel running it, or Suella Braverman, or Rishi Sunak.
No.
I've not got a problem with them.
Second or third generation migrant children.
Turns out they're all shit.
Yeah.
So I ain't got a problem running the country. But I don't want a first generation migrant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I've not even, because of what's been going on, I've not even paid attention to that party.
There's just so much going on at the minute.
I'm so uninterested in that party or Labour. I've hardly paid attention to her at all.
Yeah. Well,
and I also want to focus on America as well, because it's so much fucking fun.
Yeah. Well, the Tories now, for the next couple of years, are insignificant.
Yeah.
It's not worth you spending any time on them, because there's more important things to be looking at.
But it was an interesting interview to listen to.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it.
Yeah.
It
was quite embarrassing. I'd fucking step down if I'd have given that interview. Honestly.
She'll think she did well.
I'm sure she will.
The Tories at the moment, and she hasn't got a clue.
No.
The
whole of fucking Westminster is full of fucking narcissists.
Yeah. She's just trying to keep her position. She knows what she would say, which the public would love to hear, but she would lose her MPs doing it.
Yeah.
And they may oust her.
Yeah.
Because most of the Tory MPs in Parliament at the moment are basically Lib Dems.
Yeah.
There's not many true right-wing Tories left.
No.
They're nearly all Lib Dems. So she has to make sure they're happy with her. Otherwise, they'll vote her out and she'll be out. She won't be. Yeah. And she still thinks she's got a shot at being Prime Minister. And to be fair, everyone's got a shot at being Prime Minister if you're in the House of the Parliament. So, you've got to be leader to have a chance. She's leader, so she's got a chance. So she wants to remain leader to have a chance.
Yeah. So this is where the way we started the podcast is talking about, so she's a politician, not a statesman.
Yeah.
Say. So what? It's pretty obvious it sounds obvious when you say, well, how would you what defines a statesman compared to a politician?
The last statesperson, we still got him in this country. The last one is Jeremy Corbyn.
Right.
Jeremy Corbyn, I would never vote for.
No, of course
Disagree with him on everything, but at least he was honest. At least he had a vision. He believes the same things now that he did in the 70s. He wants to be a socialist state. He wants to spend loads of money. He wants to tax us more. He told us what he was going to do. He had a full plan. Some people loved his plan. He got more votes in the general election than Keir Starmer did. Yeah. Keir Starmer got 9 million votes. Corbyn got 9.5 million votes. Right. It was only because Reform took so many votes off Tories that Labour won. It was just a different period of time. But at least he had a vision, and he wasn't for changing. And he wasn't looking at focus groups going, oh, this is popular this week, I'll have a policy around that. You know, he was a statesman who I disagreed with. The one before that was Thatcher. You know, Thatcher was like, this is what I'm going to do, don't like it, vote me out. But then, you know, since...
No one did.
Yeah, but then since like Blair and David Cameron...
So whilst we're on Blair, I did have a question written down for you. Was Blairism left or right-leaning politically? I can never work it out.
Left.
Was it?
Yeah.
Gung-ho on the war side, though.
Socialists always are.
True.
Yeah. He inherited a really good economy from Thatcher.
Yeah.
So most of the stuff he got done and takes credit for and did, spending and all that, was only because he inherited a really good economy. Why he could spend so much money and bother so much money as well, because the economy was doing well. By the time...
Ended well for him, didn't it?
By the time they left office, we're bankrupt. And that's what Labour always do to the country.
Yeah.
This time round, it's worse because we're already bankrupt.
Yeah.
And now we've got a socialist government and we've got no economy. So they're in dire straits. Blair set in motion lots of things that at the time didn't look important. So he introduced the law on European human rights.
Yeah.
So he took the convention in the European Union and he wrote it into British law. That's why we can't deport people, because they claim human rights. It's written into our law. Our judges, who we complain about all the time, they only can do what the law says they can do. And it's on the statute book, so they've got to apply the law.
Is it not a dichotomy that Blair wrote laws on human rights and also invaded Iraq at the same time?
You could make that case.
Yeah.
I mean, you can make that case.
How many people died in Iraq? Over 1 million?
Over 1 million people, but not killed by the British. That was a civil war after we invaded. The country fell apart, and it was Iraqis killing Iraqis. That's where the 1 million died. The war itself, I don't know how many it killed. A couple of 100,000 soldiers. I mean, a good few, but all the civilian deaths was the civil war. He would argue that it was about human rights, that we invaded Iraq because of a dictator treating their people appallingly and not upholding their human rights. So we had to go in and kill loads of people to protect their human rights. Makes no sense.
No, because he didn't argue that at the time.
No, he didn't. But lots of things he did were left-leaning. What else did he introduce? He then changed the policing. Mm-hmm. He changed the oath police officers take. Police officers used to swear allegiance to the king and the law of the land. Now they swear allegiance to the king, law of the land, and human rights.
Right.
So he did all these things that at the time we didn't understand because we weren't in the mess with it now with woke and all this sort of stuff. But he laid a lot of the groundwork.
Do you think they understood it as they were doing it?
Yes, from what I've read, Peter Hitchens. Yeah, Peter Hitchens is really good on this. Mm-hmm. If you ever see any of his interviews on New Culture Forum, he talks about the Blair agenda and what Blair did, and no one knew could see what he was doing, but no one could see 20 years down the line.
Yeah.
And Peter Hitchens said he set the agenda for a Marxist revolution in this country.
Do you think that was their aim?
He
for Marxism.
That's what he says. He said he set the agenda. He infiltrated all the major organisations, the BBC, all the NGOs. He took more power away from Parliament and gave it to unelected bodies, then infiltrated it with all left-leaning people. Peter Hitchens calls it something like the non-war revolution or the non-fighting revolution, because he said he implemented the Marxist revolution and no one saw it and no one even knows it existed.
Yeah.
And then the Tories came along and carried it on.
Did nothing better.
Well, and carried it all on.
Yeah.
They could have overturned everything they wanted to overturn. They overturned nothing. Theresa May is horrendous. Theresa May created our knife crime epidemic because she instructed the police to stop doing so much stop and search because it was racist. So they stopped stop and search. Knife crime epidemic now. She signed into law the net zero agenda. That's why we have all these issues, because she signed it into law.
Yeah,
that'll be good fun next year when all the blackouts start.
Yep.
When Heysham goes down for maintenance.
That can bring down the government overnight.
Yeah.
Blackouts could bring down the government.
We have a friend that works at Heysham, and he was telling us that it is going down for maintenance for 2 years.
Yeah.
Massive energy provider for the Northwest.
We almost had blackouts last month.
Last month?
Almost had. I think someone was saying we're 5 hours away from blackouts.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I did hear.
Yeah. That's how close it came. She also did a lot of the woke LGBT stuff. You know, she's the one who started the transgender nonsense in law. Theresa May, for the 2 years she was in power, was horrendous.
Yeah. We weren't here for it, so unfortunately we don't have much.
The Tories were horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. Incompetent. Didn't know what they were doing. Didn't achieve anything. At least Blair may have done things I disagree with it, but
he did it with an agenda.
He did it with an agenda. You know, there was no incompetence there. He took the people with him. But the 14 years of Tories were just a joke.
Yeah.
And Starmer's even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that he is incompetent, or he has a name?
Is he... A bit of both. I think he's incompetent as in he's not the traditional politician.
No.
He's a bureaucrat.
Because he's obviously reasonably clever.
Oh, a lot of these people are extremely clever. Just because you're clever, there's lots of things you don't know. Someone told me once about clever people. Someone said to me once, Nick, you'll meet people who'll be able to tell you the internal diameter of a can of baked beans.
Yeah.
But won't be able to open them.
Yeah, okay.
So just because you're clever doesn't mean you've got any common sense, you don't know how things work. Starmer suffers from having no charisma. Not his fault. He was born like that. He can't hold a crowd. He's got no inflection in his voice. He can't speak off the cuff. He's not a Boris Johnson.
It's weird because he had so much voice coach training over the...
I'd want my money back. I'd want my money back if I was him. I'd want my money back.
I don't think it was voice training that he was doing.
Yeah, so he's not got those skills. So if you've not got those skills, you have to be better at other stuff, such as knowing how things work and getting things done. And he's not very good at that either. So he's a double whammy. I think he was placed there by men in grey suits in the Labour Party who have groomed him over a decade and said, he's our man. He's a Marxist, and he's a Marxist. You know, he's university, he was in all those clubs and stuff like that. He wants what we want. He can be manipulated. He won't go off and do what he wants because he actually doesn't want anything. He just wants a Marxist agenda. Yeah. And I think he was groomed, pushed, and backroom deals, and they got him to run, and that's why he's there now. And I think he's doing what he's told, but I think he believes in what he's being told as well. And what he's being told is we need more globalism. If we're going to have a communist revolution to take over the world, we need a globalist agenda.
Yeah. And
that globalist agenda is the EU, it's the WEF, it's NATO, it's all these international organisations that sovereign states hand power to. And that's the beginning of a world government, and it'll be a world communist government. And he knows it's not going to happen in his lifetime. He knows it's a decades, centuries project, and he's bought into that. That's like when he was asked on TV by the BBC before the general election, what do you prefer, Westminster or Davos? And he went, Davos.
Yeah, of course he fucking did.
And it's like, he answered it there.
Yeah.
Why do you think he wants to give away the Chagos Islands? Why do you think he's looking at reparations for the Caribbean?
To be fair, having recently been to London, I would probably prefer fucking Davos over London at the minute. It is a proper shithole.
It is. And many of our cities are, many of our inner cities are. And that's because none of our institutions work. Nothing works. Everything's grinding to a halt. It was
Surely
okay.
seems that way, doesn't it?
And when you think about it, it's...
But if that's the case, why are so many people attracted to the idea of Marxism?
Because it gives simple answers to very complicated problems.
But they don't work.
But these people are simple and want simplicity. And it's a bit like religion.
Yeah,
That's what Marxism is. It's a religion. It's telling you, if we can do these simple things, we'll live in utopia.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, sharing. Oh, yeah. No more rich people. Oh, yeah, I like that. And we're going to have free NHS and free this, and everything will be free. And you can choose when you want to work, because if you're doing a job you want to do, then you'll work harder at it, won't you? Yeah, I will. But it never works. It never
You'll
works.
have nothing and you'll be happy.
Yeah. And every Marxist always thinks, well, when I implement it, it'll work this time, man, because I understand it better.
Yeah, because they didn't do it right.
Didn't do it right last time. And they have no understanding of human nature. Marxism looks great on paper.
It does.
And when you read it, you go, well, if we could run the world like that, yeah. But what they're always missing is human nature. And we're evil, greedy, manipulative little creatures. And we won't do as we're told.
We're also loving, kind.
Not as well. But we will cheat.
Yeah.
We will be lazy. And Marxism doesn't cope when you introduce humans into it.
Yeah.
And we also don't want utopia. There's I wrote an article on this.
No, people need struggle.
Well,
They need struggle.
if you
need
if you Google this, there's a 10-minute video from the 60s on this. It's called, if you Google that utopia, and did an experiment, about 10, 12 experiments in an American university where they built that's heaven. They put all these cages, and there was free water, and there was fresh bedding, and there was toys to play with. They built rat heaven. And for the first couple of weeks, it was fantastic. The rats were happy. And then slowly over time, they became unhappy. And they began eating each other, killing each other, only waking up and feeding once a day. They started getting sores and diseases because there was nothing to strive for anymore. There was no purpose in life. They had everything they wanted. And because they had everything on tap that they wanted, there was nothing to achieve. There was no more struggle.
There's nothing to get up for.
And they did lots of these experiments. Rat Utopia, check it out.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
Well, he's just...
I'm going to save it.
Yeah.
It's always the case, isn't it? It's the same thing everyone talks about in a minute, is if you don't make yourself get up and exercise, do something difficult, it's better for your mental health. If you don't work a little harder, if you just go and do a job that doesn't fulfill you because you're not working hard and you're not achieving something, you don't end up anywhere.
We should always have a goal.
Yeah.
What are we aiming for? It might not be the Prime Minister. It might. There's little goals you can do. We need goals every day. We need goals we're going to do today, goals we're going to do over the next couple of weeks, and we need long-term goals, because that keeps us motivated. That ensures that we're a slightly better person today than we were yesterday.
Yeah.
Because yesterday I achieved these things, so I'm now slightly better version of myself. Only compare yourself to the person you were yesterday. Don't compare yourself to other people, because you're not them.
Have you read Atomic Habits?
No.
It's a great one for that.
Right.
For setting personal goals.
Yeah.
I tried doing it for quitting smoking, and I got into vaping instead.
Yeah.
But
you have more nicotine than ever now.
yeah, but I personal goals it helped me.
Who wrote that? I recognise that.
I'd have to Google it.
Yeah. Should we just? I'm just gonna have a toilet break. Well, we got well sidetracked there because I really want to cover a little bit on this book.
Yeah.
On your book.
Oh, we did. Yeah, we were talking about the book.
Absolutely. We spent 2 minutes on the book and went back off into the world.
Yeah. And for the book, if anybody wants to buy it, it's only available on Amazon because I self-published.
Yep.
So it's available on Amazon. If you just Google on Amazon, Nick Buckley MBE, it takes you to my 4 books. And the latest one is England, My England.
Can you not do an audiobook?
I downloaded something the other day about how to do an audio book, so I'm going to have a look at it and read it and see if it's possible.
You can do it maybe yourself.
Well, there's programs now that will read it for you and stuff like that. So
No, you should definitely read it yourself.
It takes a long time and all the editing. And when I started reading this document on audiobooks, it said, straight away, you're better off not reading it yourself and getting one of these programs, and you can pick the voice and the accent and stuff.
We'll give
like
it 5 years and AI will be able to give you your voice anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure it can be done now, but I'm sure
probably,
it's expensive.
Yeah.
But I'm going to look into audiobooks because so many people tell me all the time, is it available on audiobook?
Yeah.
Audiobook.
I probably listen to 2 or 3 audiobooks a week.
Right, yeah.
I love an audiobook.
Yeah, we're like both predominantly listen. I haven't read a book for 2 years.
Yeah.
And obviously we knew you were coming. I was like, right, I'm going to read it.
Yeah.
And I made notes on it. I never made notes on a book, ever. Maybe since school.
Yeah.
Probably still didn't really do that either.
And it's easy to read because I'm not an academic, so it's it's very easy to read.
Well, I found it easy to read.
Right.
I don't know what that means. I'm on no top or bottom of the scale. I can just read. But just what I know is, just my personal thing, don't know about you, Tom, but because we've started paying attention to what's going on in the world and paying attention to what's going on in England, and you start, maybe we're at a point where, are we proud of the country or not? Is it, we're happy talking about it, but we don't really know necessarily, is there something to be proud of? Got to admit, I read that book, put the book down, and I just felt patriotic.
Yeah.
Far more. Come away from it. The way you put it just got me a little bit more fired up about England. There's obviously some of the stuff you had in it. And obviously that's the point when we were talking about, men being cowards, maybe men leaving the country, men not wanting to fix problems. But you're not going to fix something that you're not proud of, are you? Because if you've no pride in something,
Exactly.
you're going to let it die, whatever. It's just like a beat-up car. If you bang it, you don't give a fuck, do you?
Yeah.
But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it for that. Really come away with it. You put some stuff in it. Obviously, there's some harsh words in it. There's some when you were going on about weak Englishmen. There's some of them points I've done it.
Yeah, and we all have.
Yeah,
we all have. I'm not perfect. A lot of those things I know are true because I made those mistakes.
Yeah. I'm
trying to be a better version of me than I was yesterday, last year, a decade ago. So this isn't me criticising Englishmen because they're not good enough. It's me criticising Englishmen going, we all can be better. All of us should be better.
Yeah.
And just look at our ancestors. Look what our ancestors did. It's all about in the book, we created the modern world.
Yeah.
Britain,
Common
England
law.
created the modern world, the Industrial Revolution. We had the biggest empire ever known to mankind. All the countries, we didn't invade them per se because we didn't have a big army. We went to other countries to trade and then we took them over by using the establishments that were there because they knew we would give them a better quality of life. That's how we took over India. Half the Rajas signed up to the British and we defeated the other Rajas. But it was Indian soldiers fighting those wars. And then when we're the only empire that ever dissolved peacefully. That we walked away from all those countries peacefully, and then all those countries said, "Do you know what? We love you guys. Can we start a new club? Let's call it the Commonwealth." No other empire ever had a Commonwealth because all those other empires, when they fell, they were hated.
Yeah.
They were hated by those countries. We weren't. And I'm not saying we did everything that was right.
No, definitely some bad shit went on.
But that happened everywhere. That was happening here.
Yeah.
Do you know that at the height of American slavery on the plantations in Alabama, those slaves lived 9 years longer than English people in the north of England?
Why?
They had better lives than the men and the women who lived in the north of England.
Why is it that the north of England gets so much fucking shit?
It's because it's away from London. You go out of London.
Is that just it?
But the weather, poverty.
Is it the jobs as well? Like if you
Well,
coal mining,
there's mining here and stuff like that.
Rough work and tough men.
Yeah. So when the British Empire may have done some bad things, we're told now it's because we're evil.
Yeah, no.
We were treating English people like that here. No,
that doesn't make it better though.
No, but life was hard for everybody.
Yeah. It was 200 years ago. No one had fucking running water in the house.
Exactly. 99% of people, had it bad. Were dying at 45.
Even the guys in the top positions of power don't have it as good as me, you, or Dan do right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Exactly. But we had it bad here. And we did some amazing things. Most of medicines and vaccines of the world were created here. Most of science was invented here. We created the World Wide Web, the internet, the jet engine, and everything. Nearly everything was created there. We created the modern world, and we gave the world our language. The world's language is English. Anyone thank us for it? We gave the world
they hate us for it.
Apart from basketball, we've given the world nearly every sport. All those sports were created here. Boxing, tennis, badminton, football, the world's sport, football. Who created the modern Olympics? We did in London in 1822, I think it was. It may have started 1,000 years ago in Greece, 2,000 years, but we created the modern Olympics.
Really?
The world owes us so many thank yous. Who stopped the world transatlantic trade, slave trade? We did. We didn't capture any black Africans and sell them as slaves. Black kings were capturing their neighbours, selling them into slavery, because they've been doing it for 10,000 years. We just started, Westerners, the Portuguese started buying black slaves. And then one day, the English decided, this can't go on. This is unchristian. So then we started campaigns to end slavery. We ended it across the British Empire. And how did we end it through the British Empire? We ended it by buying the freedom of every slave. It cost us billions of pounds in today's money. And we got a loan out to pay that. And do you know when we stopped paying that loan off?
It wasn't long ago, was it?
2015.
Yeah.
So everyone alive today, if you're alive in 2015, some of your taxes were paying reparations to slaves because we bought the freedom of everybody in the British Empire. And then we spent more money patrolling the high seas.
You can't call it reparations, though. They were buying the slaves, weren't they, off the slave masters?
It was a reparation to those slaves. They got the freedom.
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. We shouldn't pay reparation to their descendants.
No, fuck no.
They were never slaves.
No.
Yeah.
Outrageous call.
But, so, we then patrolled the high seas, and we stopped the transatlantic slave trade. And then we stopped the Arabs taking slaves and buying slaves in Africa. And that was some of the reasons why we invaded some of the African countries, was to stop the slave trade. Some of the kings of some of the African countries were writing to Parliament and to Queen Victoria, demanding we reinstate the slave trade. It's their right to sell slaves. It's their right to take their neighbours as slaves. We've been doing it. This is our culture. It's our right to do it. We've got the letters now in museums and writing these things. Africans didn't want to stop the slave trade. And many countries didn't want to, but we used our force and our navy to stop the Western world dealing in slaves. And unfortunately, there's more black slaves alive today than ever before in history, because Africans never stopped enslaving each other.
Yeah.
Does Black Lives Matter ever talk about that?
Fuck no.
Does anyone have marches about that? No. So we ignore all the slaves that were alive today, and race baiters and grifters bang on about slavery 200 years ago and who did wrong and who owes money. If they were genuine, they'd be banging on about the Africans who are enslaved today, and we do nothing about it.
All those kids and women in the cobalt mines in the Congo.
Yeah.
I presume you've seen those videos.
I've seen the videos, yeah.
How anyone can complain about old-time slaveries compared to that.
Well, a couple of years ago, you could go to Libya.
Yes, they had auctions live on YouTube.
Yes, they did. And you can still see those videos now.
Yeah.
And that was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it was as Gaddafi was falling, wasn't it? Or he'd fallen.
He'd fallen.
Yeah, it was, honestly, it was absolutely fucking wild.
Yeah, on the coast of Europe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we need to be proud of who we are and what we've achieved. What we're going through at the moment is a blip. We're going to get over this. I'm very confident. I'm very optimistic. This is a blip. When the history of this country and this island is written, this will just be seen as a bit of a negative blip, just like the 1970s were. Things are changing. Things have been changing for several years now. Things are feeling worse, and they're going to get worse for the next couple of years. But the ground is changing. The people have had enough.
It feels that way.
Yeah, woke's dying. Trump's been a blessing. Europe's turning to the right. We're just stuck with this Labour government for the next couple of years. But big change is coming, and we'll see better days ahead. But for that to come quicker, we all need to do something about it. We need to take some responsibility. But we're an amazing island. I think the whole chapter is dedicated on why you should be proud of this island.
Yeah.
I really, there's lots of books you can go and read, all the history, you know, and you've obviously repeated some of it. I'm sure you could find it in other books, but the way you've put it in between a couple of other stories of what's going wrong was great just to learn a little. I had no idea. Tom had actually, I was telling Tom, you should wait till you get to this bit, and it was the beginning of the Royal Navy. Yeah. And Tom had already knew. Yeah. I didn't know. Yeah. And I thought, what a fantastic story, what a cool English story, like how that come about is, you know, saving slavery. Just all these little things, just be proud of the country for. You know, and
well, the country has a wealth of history, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course.
And nobody knows any of it.
No.
So then we're easy to be lied to because we don't know anything else.
Is that deliberate?
Yes.
Well, if you got to the part of the book where it's about, you know, men have turned weak, men have turned cowardly, and why? And you were saying about because we've just been told to shut up about this, don't say this, treat women. We should always treat women well, but don't be part of the feminist movement. You know, support women in this way. You can't say this. You should act like that. And we've been so muted. Yeah. And when I read it, I really understood it then. It's like, oh, we just spent the last 20 years, since we've been like 16, 17, everything's just been, they say you can't do this anymore. Yeah. They say you can't do that. And it's just weakened so many people just to the point.
It's been going on since the 50s.
Yeah. 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 Okay. I mean, obviously, we only started to pay attention and a memory from it. Yeah.
So you think that is down to the Marxist agenda?
Many things.
And a one world government.
When you have serious problems...
I know, it sounds real conspiratorial when you put it like that, but...
That's...
I don't disagree with you either.
Many serious problems have many problems within it to get to that. You know, anyone can solve their problem. It's when it's multifaceted, where there's so many things going on, it's hard to solve. What I think happened was... The first thing was feminism and Marxism. Both came about at the same time. Yeah. Then we had 2 world wars. Those 2 world wars killed 1.25 million men out of the UK. Those men would have been the best of us. They would have been the bravest, the strongest, the ones who charged the machine gun nest, the ones who weren't cowardly hiding behind other people. The best men got wiped out. Yeah. That took that bravery gene out, depleted it in the gene pool. Plus, all those men didn't get home to raise their children and raise their boys about how it is to be a man, how it is to be brave and take personal responsibility. So those 2 wars, so close together, went bang, 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 and suddenly we got lots of weak men and don't know how to be strong men because they all died in the war. At the same time, technology started taking over. The pill, white goods in the kitchen. So women then had more power and started working. They then took some of the jobs from men. Men then some of the men, you know, intelligent-wise weren't as clever as some of the women, so they felt less of a man. Women controlled their pregnancy with the pill, so now they weren't stuck at home raising children. They started going to the workforce. And all these things happened at the same time. The Cold War, we're being infiltrated by Russian misinformation and disinformation and planting seeds to weaken us in case there is another Third World War. All these things are going along. The universities then started becoming popular. Anybody could go to university now. Before it was rich people only. We had all the Marx...
Which is not a bad thing.
It wasn't a bad thing in the
university part.
In the 60s, 70s and 80s. From Blair onwards, it became a bad thing, as in...
Pointless degrees.
We started, pointless degrees, but making young people think university is the only way forward. We send far too many people to university now. And most of them come out with their useless degree and there's no need to go to university in the first place. So the university's changed.
There's also, there's barely any trades left.
Yep.
There's building.
Yep.
Right. There's not a great deal of engineering jobs left. You know, most of the Birmingham quarter's gone.
Yeah.
You know,
so we lost those manly jobs.
Manufacturing has just been decimated across the
country. There's a big section of males who are not academic, but are not stupid, and they naturally would go into trades, apprenticeships, working with the hands, and we decimated those jobs, so those men then feel less of a man. They can still get jobs, but now they're shit jobs, where before they'd have got a well-paid job working with their hands. Now they're stacking shelves, and they're doing something like that. So we've degraded them. They don't feel like men anymore now. Some of their wives are earning more money than them. They take that as a knock. And all these things, many things have been happening through the last 150 years. And then the woke stuff have started, white men are privileged, white men are evil. I'm writing my 5th book at the moment called Anglophobia, the hatred that never goes away. And Anglophobia means hatred of the English. Yeah. So all these things have been happening, and it's and then in the book I also talk about the chemicals in our water supply, and that's over-feminizing men. 90% of the pill, the female...
it was your book, wasn't it? You talked about the extra estrogen that is produced from taking the pill.
Yeah, in the water
supply. Yeah. And then you think about London. How many times as a kid were you told every pint of water that you drink has gone through 7 people before you drink it?
Yeah, loads.
It sounds silly, but then...
Yeah, and then when you think our water refinery places... they only filter out viruses and bacteria
and heavy metals.
Not chemicals. We don't in London. Some of the water in London you can still find traces of cocaine because that many people are taking cocaine, peeing it in the toilet. It's being recycled as cocaine in water.
Auckland, New Zealand was the same. You could find traces of methamphetamine in your tap water.
Exactly. But that's happening with the female pill, the hormones. Yeah. So men are now drinking female hormones. Also, we give dairy cows female hormones to produce more milk. That gets washed into the rivers, which goes into our water supply. And then we use chemicals. A good chemical is inside a can of baked beans. The coating inside in some of the food cans have been banned in America because they contain chemicals that are just like the female hormone, higher percentages than the pill. So that seeps into our food. So all these things are now going into men. The female hormones, that must be having a change. They've done some tests on fish where they give these hormones in the water, and some of the fish become deformed and some start turning into female fish.
So Alex Jones, I don't know if you know who he is. He started talking about this years ago.
Frogs
about
turning
the frogs.
gay.
Yeah. And it was exactly what he was talking about with glyphosate.
Yeah.
It's the exact same chemical.
They just
in Roundup.
We brought it up a couple of podcasts
ago,
didn't we?
Yeah.
They've started finding in English rivers. They're all starting to turn trans.
And these are studies from universities.
Frogs turning trans,
This is not me and you doing the studies. These are proper scientific studies that are looking at this. So so when you put all those things together, this has created the men we have now.
Yeah. And the societal push to it's okay to do that.
Yeah. He's also mentally beating the men down, saying no.
It's okay to be really soft. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Don't stand up and say what you want to say.
Because if you do, then it's a toxic masculinity.
Yeah. But it only works online. It doesn't work outside in the real world.
I think it does.
Not because I'm saying that from my experience. It doesn't work on a building site where I work.
No, it doesn't. But it works in universities.
I'm sure
it works in the office. It works in lots of places.
I went through. I moved away. I was in Australia, and I went through 4 or 5 years of following the rhetoric and becoming softer and softer, and putting a lot of effort into being a great partner for my fiance, and but going all about it all the soft way. Trying to just be understanding and talking, and you can just feel everything they're trying to tell you is just getting a little bit softer and a little bit softer, and then suddenly you read someone talking about how if you're a man in a house and yourself, you need to actually be a little bit more. It sounds ridiculous, but I'll fix that, or I'll stand up for that, or I'll fucking do that. And it's all the things that I found when I reading some of the stuff you put. I was thinking about the last, not this last couple of years, but just went through a period when I was living in Oz where I was like, got to my softest point.
Yeah.
I was like, when you think of all the stuff you're being told.
Women don't want men to be pussies.
No.
Do they, fuck?
No.
Women will tell you they do. I want a man who's caring and compassionate, but the truth is women don't know what they want. So don't listen to women about what they want. They don't know what they want. They want a man, just like we want a woman. They want a man. And we all know what a man is. We all know what a woman is. Act like a man, and that will attract the women.
Yeah.
But yeah, all this pink, fluffy, cuddling, there's evidence that if you cry in front of a woman, she loses respect for you.
Yeah.
You're not a man anymore.
So my missus actually read that part of your book.
Right.
She just happened to pick it up when I was reading that page. I don't think that's true. I was like, well, I haven't fucking cried in front of you, have I?
Yeah.
She's like, no, you haven't.
Yeah.
You've never cried. I was like, yeah, exactly. That's why you're still with me.
Yeah.
If men need to cry, I'm not saying men don't need to cry.
No, of course, men do, yeah.
But what men have to do is you go to your bedroom, you lock the door, you cry yourself out, you come out and you never fucking speak of it. That's what you do. You don't.
Is that just the northernness in us, though? Because I don't feel like southerners feel that same way about crying as northern men like.
Yeah, but is that the problem that they don't?
Well, maybe. Yeah.
Is
it the more accepting of it? It all starts in the cities first and works its way out, doesn't it?
It depends what Londoners we're talking about. I'd be surprised if there was a difference, between the bottom of this island and the top of this island.
There's much more of a coarseness from north to south.
Yeah.
Northerners are way coarser.
Yeah. I don't. If you're crying in front of your wife, what message is that sending her subconsciously?
Yeah.
Subconsciously, what it's sending to her is, you're not a protector.
Yeah.
If we're ever in danger, I have to rely on you with my children. How am I going to respect you for that?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to start taking care of myself more.
That's really offensive talk nowadays, though.
Yeah, of course it is.
Really offensive.
Yeah, but only because it's been drilled into you.
Yeah.
But it isn't actually.
I'm not saying I find it offensive at all.
No. But only because it shouldn't be. It should be pretty. It should be pretty straight up. And
the second I say these things, deep in your head, as you're listening to me saying it, you're going, "That's right."
Yeah, of course. But it's also the same shit that most blokes have been saying for the last 2,000 years in a pub.
You know the truth when you hear it. You go, I know that's right.
Yeah. I've got that comment in my notes because just when I was saying about them years I spent in Oz, I did exactly that. I got bullied by my boss and I was put under pressure and I went home one day and now I had a bit of a breakdown, stress. I went to doctors about it. But I went home and I fucking sobbed in front of Hannah, my partner, and moved on from it. I don't think I'd do that again. But when I read it, it took me right back to that and I went, fucking hell, soft break. But because I was being soft, I let some bloke get to me for a job. Yeah, that didn't matter anything. And then all of that, when you talk about if we are ingesting more estrogen and all that shit, also you go to a job and you let something beat you down like that, your testosterone levels drop because you're stressed all the time and you're being soft.
So that's where I think that threat of violence comes in as well, because your boss would never have treated you like that if you had a threat of violence over him.
Yeah, but
if he knew that if he kept treating you like that and he was going to get twatted, he would never have fucking done it. Because you only treat people like that if you're a fucking coward.
Maybe, but they also know that it's a bit different in workplaces. They can just sack you.
Yeah,
they can,
I know what you're saying.
They can sack you and sue you. So if you punch me, I'll come out better off than I did before you give me a black eye.
It's only the threat.
Yeah. But I just think off it.
It's amazing how many cowards fold to the threat of a punch.
Yeah, my ex-boss was a bit of a psychopath, and I think he was also on a lot of cocaine. So I don't know if he had done anything.
Like all these things, it's multifaceted. It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I mean, you're right. That's what keep men in order with the threat of violence.
Yeah.
And that's what makes sure we don't take liberties.
Yep.
Because there is a chance this could end in violence. And that's been developed over 100,000 years.
Yeah, and some blokes aren't wired to. I'm not wired to be a fighter, but it doesn't mean you don't have to be weak.
It doesn't matter at all.
You can stand up for yourself in different fucking ways, can't you?
Yeah, of course.
And you suit your own personality, don't you?
Violence and power doesn't have to be physical.
No,
at all.
If violence and power was what mattered, our society would demonstrate that.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the most intelligent being the most successful. It'd be the most violent and powerful. And we don't live in that society because there's a need for violence and power, and it's a tool, but it's not the main tool for success.
No.
The main tool is having the control over it.
Intelligence.
Yeah.
It's intelligence. Yeah.
That's a good point. I've never actually thought of it that way.
Yeah. I read an interesting book once. It's about a guy who lived with wolves, and he wrote about, everyone always says the alpha male. It's been a term for, who knows, hundreds of years.
Yeah.
He went and lived with the wolves, and he wrote about how the alpha male is the one who goes and fights. Yeah. We see an alpha male as the leader. He said, but in a wolf pack, that's not how it works. The beta female is always the leader. And when she sends the alpha out to fight and possibly die, because he's the most expendable person in the group. You don't get rid of the mothers. You don't get rid of the cubs. You send the alpha out. And a lot of blokes get lost in that thought of alpha. But it's a whole different thing being an alpha as a fighter than to a leader. And I thought that was amazing. You get a lot of blokes on Instagram going, I'm a fucking alpha male. Yeah. Well, yeah, but that might actually mean you're just a thick cunt. And the female's actually running it, but yeah.
You tend to find anyone who refers to himself as an alpha male, by definition, is not an alpha male.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're an alpha male, you would
you
wouldn't lower yourself to tell people that you think you're an alpha male. If you're an alpha male, not only do you know you're an alpha male, everyone around them knows you're an alpha male. You don't tell people.
Yeah, you don't.
Yeah, absolutely true. you, as soon as you say that word, in fact, some people always come to mind, don't they? You'll know someone in your life, and they'll come to your mind who would say who would come out with that statement.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, I come away with that, from reading your book, a lot prouder of the country. Still want to learn a bit more. Still have a bit more to do, and I think that probably the more you have to do with it, and the more you get involved, who knows? I think we've become pretty passionate about it. The more we talk about it, and maybe if we start doing more interviews and doing more time on it, more and more, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've just signed up to go to the reform thing in Birmingham.
Right, yeah.
Don't know, are you going there or not?
No.
Just not because we fully support reform, but just because we want to. It's inspired us to just have something, learn something, have something to do.
Go and see what they're about.
Yeah. Or just hear some stuff that you wouldn't normally hear just watching the news or whatever. But
I would really like to know if Nigel can be trusted.
You'll never know.
No, I know.
You'll never know. So what you need to do is you need to presume he's full of it.
Yeah.
And you need to have that in the back of your mind all the time. So there's no point replacing Tory and Labour liars
with another
liar.
Yeah.
So don't buy into. He's not a god.
No, not at all.
There's
a difference between being a god and being able to be trusted, though.
Yeah, but people, because most of us are sheep, we're always looking for the new shepherd.
Yeah.
So there'll be people who, Tony Blair was fantastic. I love Thatcher. Why can't we have them back? Well, they were flawed people as well.
Yeah.
So stop looking for your messiah and say to yourself, right, these people are going in a direction I want to go in at the moment. Well, follow them in the direction they're going in, but always make sure they're leading you to where you want to go. And don't go blindly, and don't believe everything they say. Question everything they say and look for evidence and hold them to account. Because if you don't, we'll end up in a different version of where we are now, with new politicians lying to us and taking us where they want to go. And we can't keep making these mistakes. So follow the people who sound good now, who are taking us where we want to go, but always hold them to account and always know that at any moment they could be lying to you, and take responsibility for that.
Question everything.
Yes.
So I've got one more question. I don't know if you've got any more, Dan. I've lost it now. It was on the tip of my tongue. How can someone like me and Dan, who were just beginning to learn about politics, how can we go ahead and affect the change that we feel that the country needs?
Have you finished my book? Yeah, so that's the last chapter. Mm-hmm. So the last chapter, I was writing the book and thought, this is all good, this is great, people need to know this. But I can't write this, accuse all men of being weak, and then not tell them what they need to do and how to be part of the solution. That would be unfair. And there's no point me telling people, like, what you need to do is set up a political party and you need to get voted into parliament, or well,
because it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. So why am I telling people things that are just so out of their reach?
It's more platitudes, and that's all we fucking hear.
So the last chapter of the book is all about how you as an individual, how you as a normal person living in this country, with basically, you don't need an education, you don't need money, you don't how you as a citizen can start doing things to improve the country. So the first thing is what you need to do about yourself. So you need to be more positive. You need to stop criticising the country for no reason. You can critique the country, of course you can. We've got loads of problems, but things like this country's finished. There's no point even trying anymore now. We're over. We're done. I want to emigrate. Those things need to stop, because the more you say it, the more you'll believe it, and the more you believe it, then you're just one less soldier we've got fighting this fight. Plus, people around you hear you. And when you're then passing on your negativity to them, so they're slightly more depressed now. They feel the fight's not happening, because what's the point of fighting? You aren't fighting, and you're probably right. You're probably country. So you're infecting other people with your negativity, and it's contagious. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. What's the point of fighting? It's all over. And then things get worse. Well, I knew they were going to get worse. Well, that's because you didn't do anything about it. So start being positive with your friends and with yourself. Start learning about the country, its history, what it's achieved, and talk to your friends about it. Talk about how we created the internet, the World Wide Web. Talk about, certain historic characters, how we ended the slave trade. Read some books. If you're not a book reader, go watch some good films. Some of my favourite films are like Zulu, Elizabeth. There's many historic films, and new films about Churchill. And take some pride out of that.
That's probably the only good thing about cinema in the last 10 years is there has been some good Churchill films.
Yes, yeah.
It's the only good thing.
It's the only good thing.
One of the best films ever done, I don't know if you've watched this film, with Peter O'Toole, Lawrence of Arabia.
Never seen it, no. You
must watch it. It's one of the most beautifully filmed films you'll ever see. How they captured the desert the way they did. It's a very good film, and it shows how we were using the nomads in the Arabian Peninsula to fight the Ottomans during the First World War. Fantastic film.
Right.
Very entertaining, but that's a great film. All these things you start watching and you go, do you know what? We've done amazing things. And then talk to your family and friends about it. If you've got children, make sure they know their history. Get a calendar and start marking some of the important dates on, so you can educate your children, or have a local family party about it, like VE Day, Dunkirk, and then the 1066 Battle of Hastings. All put some dates in, so when it comes, you might want to do something special for you, your children, or your local community, and make sure we celebrate these dates and understand why that date's important. And then join a political party. I'm not telling people which one to join, but join a party and start voting, because we live in a democracy. It's the only power you have is your vote. And over the last 50 years, the elite have convinced us sneakily that your vote doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how you vote. It makes no difference. We're going to get what we want anyway. And the people went, well, I'm not going to vote then. We spent hundreds of years trying to get the vote, and the second we get it, they convince you it's worthless. If it was worthless, they wouldn't mind you having it, would they?
They wouldn't try and convince you that it's not.
So use your vote. At the last general election, 40% of the people in the country who could vote didn't vote.
Wild numbers.
Labour won the election on 33%. 40% of the people didn't even vote. That means if they all got together, they'd have won the general election. Your vote matters. and then convince your family and friends to vote. And then there's more in the last chapter of the book about what you can do as an individual.
Yeah.
And it's small things, because all I want from you is you to take responsibility for you. Don't worry about your neighbours. Don't worry about everybody else. Don't give up because they're not doing their bit. You do your bit, and hopefully they'll see you doing your bit. You might inspire them to do their bit. And then if you've got 40 million people all doing their bit, that's a lot of change coming down the path. That's a lot of patriots wanting a better world. And again, don't moan that other people aren't doing their bit. Concentrate on you and make sure you do your bit. That's all you're in charge of. That's all you've got control over, is what you can do. And then hopefully others will do their bit. That's the start.
Yeah.
There is no simple answers. There is no magic wand. There is no lever I can pull. All we can do as individuals is what we can do. And then we rely on other English men and women to do their bit.
Right, I'm really sorry that you wasted your greatest speech on this podcast. That was awesome.
That was great.
That was really inspiring.
No, it's well, that's the feeling we're getting at the minute, isn't it? We didn't see this. We sat down a year ago. We started recording, and all we spoke about was old stories getting hammered, and. Well, we also love conspiracies as well, didn't we?
Oh, who doesn't?
But you can't help. Eventually, when you get sat around a table and you have a beer, you're going to start discussing the governments and all that. And it just revved up. And then we started going, well, we need something to talk about next week. So we started paying some attention. Yeah. And then we're 1 year in and we've just become way more passionate than we have been. And part of that's because America's fired us up, because it's a little bit of an example.
Inspiration.
And
and looking at conspiracies and you think, oh, well, this is ridiculous, and then you look it up and it's like, holy, it might be true. It might be true.
Yeah, and it takes a few months sometimes to really start understanding. You have to put quite a lot of work in to understand politics, don't you? I mean, and we don't understand a lot, but there's so much to it. But as you get more passionate, and then you want to pass it on to people, don't you? Because you go, actually, no, this country's pretty cool. And if you start learning some stuff, or if you go watch a war film and you come away really proud of it, and it's I get why a lot of people don't pay attention, because there's far more important, to them there's far more important things. They're trying to just pay the bills, aren't they? They're trying to work.
I wouldn't call this politics. I would call this life.
Yeah.
Because that's what we've discussed today, life. We've discussed problems in the country, what the solutions could be.
Well, everything is political nowadays, so if everything's political, nothing's political.
Yeah. But the second you use the word political, it puts lots of people
on. It puts an anus on it, doesn't it?
So what we're discussing is life. How are we going to get a better life for me and you? How are we going to get a better life for our children and our grandchildren? How are we going to get
Surely that's the whole goal, isn't it?
How are we going to get safer streets so our women folk can walk on them? How are we going to get better jobs? How are we going to get jobs? How are we going to get a better government? This is life. This isn't party politics. It's not about I'm voting Labour because of this, I'm voting Tories or Reform because of that.
But it does feel like it's on a real tipping point.
It does. Big change is coming.
It does.
Big change is coming.
It could go one way or the other.
It's only going to go one way.
You reckon?
It's only going to go one way. How it looks and where we end, I don't know. But big change is coming. I can guarantee it's going to involve more personal responsibility.
Yeah.
It's going to involve a smaller state. It's going to involve more right-wing policies. Those things are definite, because the whole Western world is swinging that way. Yeah. These things swing one way to another.
I try not to get too hopeful about it, because I've been duped before.
But it's going to take time. We're going to see some big changes over this next. When the next government comes in, we're going to see some big changes. Yeah. This government will do nothing. This government daren't do anything. It won't U-turn.
So more of nothing.
More of nothing. Yeah. So another couple of years until they fall.
But that nothing can do so much damage.
I think I think it's also great. I think that gives another 2 or 3 years for Englishmen to get pissed off.
Yep.
Because that's what's the migrant thing, to me personally, is the absolute turning point, because fuck about with people's taxes. We've said this before.
Well, it was bad enough when you were hearing about 100,000 people a year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Now, when you're hearing there's like a couple of million.
No, but what I was going to say is fuck about with people's money, fuck about with people's green initiative. No one really cares enough.
Yeah.
But fuck about with people's kids.
Yep.
and you're going to fire up some men that haven't stood up for a little while. We spoke about that before. I think you start...
Up the lion.
Yeah.
Put it in Nick's words.
Yeah. And that's beginning to happen. It happened in Sweden the other week with that guy shot all those... immigrants.
That's not the lion. It doesn't...
No, but
that's going to happen.
It's if it's 2 or 3 more years before a better government come in, then maybe it's if it all got fixed tomorrow, everyone would go back to sleep.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't do enough, and it'd just go back to paying shitty taxes and having a shitty NHS and everything. Yeah. But maybe 2 years is enough to get people really revved up.
But I've been saying for years, change will come when we hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're at rock bottom yet. Another couple of years we'll be rock bottom. I wanted Labour to win the general election. I was rooting for them. I said that all online. Not because I'm a Labour supporter, but if we'd have got the Tories still in power, Tories were killing us slowly, so slowly we couldn't see it. I knew Labour in power would take us to rock bottom a lot quicker. Same destination as the Tories were taking us, but they take us there quicker and haven't been proven right. Yeah. And we need to hit rock bottom, and we're getting close now. All it's going to take now is the economy to get worse.
Labour aren't even the same Labour that they used to be.
No.
Like, there's an old saying around here that you only vote Labour in to fix the roads every 10 years.
No.
And looking at our local township, Garstang,
they're
not even fixing the roads, they're just painting fucking white lines everywhere over the potholes. Literally, there's white lines painted over the potholes. I think that sums up Labour to a T right now.
Yeah, Labour councils,
Yeah.
But the things are going to get worse, and you're right. The sleeping giant, the Englishness is beginning to wake up, and we're saying to ourselves, this isn't good enough. We've had something like this before in the 1400s called the Peasants' Revolt. I think I mentioned it in the book.
You did.
Yeah. And that was when the peasants had enough. They'd just come over the Black Death, which was a bit like our COVID, because it messed with the jobs market, more taxes, people felt insecure. We've had that with COVID. The ruling power became more authoritarian, like we've got now, and you can see some similarities there. And the Peasants' Revolt changed the country, and I can see a modern version of that of coming along. History is a cycle. History just repeats itself all the time. Empires come and go. Civilizations grow and then die. And everything is a cycle in our world.
Yeah.
That's why history is so important. Because you can predict what's going to happen and what's going to come by looking what happened before. Because we're always the same creatures.
But is that why it's so fascinating to learn about history?
I mean, some of the stuff, I read stuff now and I go, I can't believe I just read that. They're describing today.
Yeah.
And this is a 200-year document from Rome. And they're describing, we've got the worst politicians in a generation. They're corrupt. The young people of our towns now have got no respect. And I'm reading these things going, this could be Rome today. This was 2,000 years ago in Rome. So there is no new problems.
No.
There's only new problem makers.
Yeah.
So all our problems we've had before, we've always solved them. All we have now is new people giving us the old problems.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think it's easy when you're involved. It's easy to feel a good path, but I think we're on a good path. I think more and more people are going to come to.
It feels like that, doesn't it? There's a groundswell.
I think so.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what? Before we finish, what's? You said you're going to keep going, running again.
Yeah.
General election. What's next? You're writing the new book.
Writing the new book should be out in the summer. I'm in discussions with a couple of political parties about potentially joining them. We'll see what by-elections come up. But my focus at the moment is raising my profile and having these types of conversations. Because people can't vote for me if they don't know I exist.
No.
Yeah.
And we don't improve the country if people are not having these conversations to realise what the problems are and what the potential solutions are. So I'm doing as much as this as possible.
Yeah.
And I'm spending most of my time online on my YouTube channel, podcasts, writing. I write articles on Substack. And I'm just trying to use as much apps and online as I can to get those messages out there and to start these conversations. I've not got the answers. Only you have the answers for you in your life and your family. I'm trying to get people to realise that all the answers lie within you, and we need to stop looking at the state.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Nick.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you for the invite.
So much.
Cheers. Yeah, it's been
awesome.
a great night tonight.
Yeah, good.
Thanks for everything you're doing. And
vote Nick.
Vote Nick. Hopefully, you know, unless you've gone too high up in the clouds, you can go, you know, maybe have a catch up again in a year and see what you're up to then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, anyone watching, where are they going to watch all your stuff?
YouTube, Nick Buckley MBE. Find me on Twitter, X. I do a lot of stuff on that. Nick Buckley. Everything's at Nick Buckley MBE.
Yeah.
So you know, if you listen to this on Apple or any other podcasts, again, Nick Buckley MBE. I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere.
Bang on.
Well, thanks for coming, mate.
You're welcome.